Jerry.
Appreciate you being here each and every day. I'm your host, Anita Blanton, and I will be with you through 4 p.m. Listen, this is a week of big stories, consequential stories that we are going to continue to keep our conversations going with here online. Let me tell you a little bit about what you can expect in this first hour that we have together. We expect for our very own Casey Cronus to be joining me to talk about her story for today. A suburban Chicago spa owner is facing very serious charges here, felony charges, after prosecutors say that he secretly recorded clients using hidden cameras. Not the first time we've heard of this, not even the most recent time that we've heard of this happening in our areas, but we are going to get the latest from court from her, as she has been staying with that story through and through. Also, the Illinois Appellate Court has just reinstated a $20 million class action lawsuit against the city of Chicago for alleged illegal ticketing practices. It's a biggie. And I'm going to be speaking with an attorney about the case getting a second win now, essentially. Also, we've been following the ongoing discussion in Naperville that so many localities are having to deal with right now, really debating over right now when it comes to data centers. In fact, the conversation has gotten to a fever pitch. Even Governor Pritzker spoke about it during his State of the State address just yesterday and had some new developments where that is concerned. So I'm going to be talking with a business owner involved in leading the data center opposition in Naperville shortly. But first up, we want to talk about the water in Elburn. What is going on? That is the big question there. The Illinois EPA just notified the Elburn community about their troubling findings in the water system after recent sampling. So Elburn Village President Jeff Walter is here with me now to talk a little bit more about what's happening right now and where the village goes from here. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thanks for having me, Anita. Much appreciated.
So when did the EPA reach out to you all? Were these routine samplings that they were doing?
Yeah, they were routine samplings. We were on a 5-year sample, but they just changed it to quarterly. So this was our first quarterly test, but it was the third test in a row in this lab, 2 this year done.
And so essentially, they find these samplings of, what is this, PFAS?
PFAS, yep, PFAS, PFAS, yep.
Yeah, and explain to people what those are.
Those are considered the permanent chemicals or forever chemicals. It's plastic compounds typically that just don't disintegrate or don't disappear, and they show up all over. They're in all kinds of products, all kinds of, they're in fabric softener, they're in your microwave popcorn bags, they're in fast food wrappers, they're those plastics that line things, that they're in water bottles. I mean, these are the PFASs are everywhere, but the problem is they don't deteriorate, they don't go away, so they show up occasionally.
Occasionally. And what would make the levels elevated on an occasion?
Well, I mean, in this case, this well that was sampled, and all of our wells actually in Elburn, we have 3 active wells, they're all very deep. They're 1,300 plus feet deep. So it's very unusual and highly unlikely that a PFAS would have migrated down to this deep aquifer, because the particular aquifer we take our water from is covered by shale, which is a pretty non-permeable rock. So it's kind of unusual to see it coming up from a well that's 1,300 feet deep.
That kind of makes your head spin. What did go through your mind when you heard about this?
Well, we were all kind of shaking our heads. Well, how does this happen? We've had 2 tests on this well, one this year and one 5 years ago, that were both negative. All of a sudden, this pops up. So we're running all the options to see where this could come from. Could this be just a lab error? Could it be a sampling error? Again, we've talked to our engineers, we've talked to water engineers. Everyone seems to think it's unlikely that a PFAS got down that deep. But we're looking at, if it's possible. So we're obviously retesting. We're going to retest the source of the water directly before it comes into any kind of water treatment. Then we'll retest it again after treatment to see if maybe there was something that happened in the treatment process, because we do have to remove radium. There's a system that does that. We also add chlorine. Could something have happened there? So there's several different things that we need to, run that rabbit into the hole, so to speak.
Yeah. And how long will that retesting process take?
We're looking for results back in mid-March, so we're sampling right now. We found an EPA lab in Wisconsin that is certified for this test. We're sending it up to them, and they're telling us they hope to have everything back to us by mid-March.
So, Jeff, what happens in the interim?
Well, in the interim, if I mean, I drink Elburn water every day, as do a lot of us, and since it is highly unlikely that the PFAS came from the deep well, people can take precautions though. A charcoal filter, like a Brita type filter, works. It takes PFAS out. If you've got an RO system in your house, that again will take the PFAS out if there's any in it. So those are things that people can do now until we hear back from the test.
Did the EPA spell out to everyone, or have you had to maybe talk to your village residents about the dangers of PFAS?
Yeah, there's a notification program from the IEPA, from the Illinois EPA. As soon as you find out, as soon as you get the written notice, you have 5 days to notify, right to know, to notify all of our residents, which we're in the process of doing right now. We just got the hard copy paperwork earlier this week, so we'll be fine. Everyone will know within 5 days. Obviously, we put it up on social media. We also started a separate web page on our village website that talks about PFAS. It talks about what all it's in, how you can protect yourself from it, that sort of thing. So we've been at it for a little bit here.
I mean, obviously, elevated levels for quite some time come with some very extensive issues. Cancer being a possibility for elevated levels over time. So, in getting people to have a better understanding of it, what are some of the things you're prepared to talk to them about?
Well, I mean, we're educating on everything, right? Where do they come from? Where are they in your normal day-to-day life? I mean, everybody always thinks about fire foam and some of the bigger lawsuits we've heard about, but so we're educating on that, where you see it in your daily life, what you can do to protect yourself from it. I believe the website does have some of the long-term effects on there, but of course you can always speak to a medical professional about that sort of thing.
And did they talk about, like, I mean, when we say elevated, is this elevated just above the normal level, or are these significantly elevated levels that they found?
Well, there's been some consternation on what that level is between the federal government and the IEPA. The federal government has kind of gone back and forth on it. The IEPA adopted a standard of zero point zero something 4 parts per trillion, and ours came back at point whatever 0.07. So it's almost double, which is really unusual as well for something that deep. So that information is all out there about what the levels are and what you can expect. But IEPA has adopted a level and a process prior to the federal government adopting anything, and I believe all municipalities have until 2029 to come into compliance to remove it from water.
Very, very interesting here. And it is, it's not just Elburn that's having to deal with this. It's plenty of other places that have had to deal with this from time to time. But it is odd, again, like you said. I mean, what was the last time that you had your water tested there?
In June of this year, and it was 0. And we have 2 other wells that pull from the same aquifer within 10 feet of each other. I mean, depth-wise, they're within a mile radius, and those have all tested negative as well. So that's why we're kind of thinking there was something that contaminated the sample. We just have to retest to find out.
Yeah. So let's say you find out in March that it is still elevated. What then? What would be the course of action then?
There are remediation things we can do. There are ways to filter the water before it goes out to the residents that we'll have to look at implementing.
Do you have any type of idea as to what could have happened between June and this sampling? I mean, even if it's like we've got to figure out if that's actually it. Are there any ideas as to what could have possibly happened?
Well, from talking to the water experts, the only way that the PFAS could have gotten into that deep of a well, if there was a straight up and down crack in the shale, and there's 2 levels of shale above where we pull our water from. So could that happen? I suppose it could, but for it to leach that far down is pretty much a stretch. It could happen. I mean, something could have broken. The shale could have something. You never know what goes on underground. So until we see those test results, we really don't know which path to go down.
Yeah. What are your village residents saying thus far? And I know this is still fairly new, but as you're starting to get the word out, what has been the reaction thus far?
People want to be informed, so we're trying to get as much out as we can and live, we have to live within the IEPA guidelines, but we put the extra website up so people can look. People are worried, obviously. It's like, well, why do we have this in our water all of a sudden? But before we jump to the conclusion that we truly do have it in our water, I think we really need to get the retest.
Yeah, certainly. And my hope and prayer will be that it comes back negative, and maybe there was just some anomaly, as I'm sure many of you all are hoping and wishing for as well. But then there's that other side that, okay, if it does come back, being ready and prepared to handle it. Do you see this as being, even if you do have to handle it, on the opposite side of whatever comes back in March, and should it be that more is needed?
We've already started talking to vendors about solutions. A couple have reached out to me already. There's some short-term solutions we can put in fairly inexpensively. And then the board has already started talking about long-term changes into our, as you know, there's radium in the water, and we have to take that out as well. And we have a system that does that. And we've been looking at other options. And one of those other options is a reverse osmosis system that would take any PFAS out as well. So we were moving in that direction anyway, because EPA and IEPA are kind of all moving towards taking out, any contaminants in the water down to very small levels. So we'll have to do some improvements, some long-term improvements to our plan as well. But so we're looking at the short-term solution. How do we, what do we do to remediate right away if it's there? And then, of course, then the longer-term, much more expensive solutions we'll implement as time goes by.
And that's what I wanted to ask you about from a financial perspective. Is the village ready for that?
No. To be honest with you, in the long term, we're planning for it now. I mean, we're looking at, if we change a plant over, it's upwards of $15 million, and we have 3 plants we would have to change over. So we obviously can't eat that at one time. But there are ways with IEPA loans and other things that we can do that we're looking at. The short-term solution, that won't be a problem. We can implement that with some of the vendors that provide that, and we'll have to absorb the expense, but we'll find a way to do it.
Mm-hmm. In terms of the issues that you have had to deal with on a larger scale there in the village, where does this rank?
Oh, this takes the cake. It's certainly the largest issue we've had to deal with. We've had issues at our sewage treatment plant with phosphorus, but we're dealing with that. I mean, the things we deal with that come from downstate, we've had to implement. We find ways to do it, but this one is certainly one that's most concerning, and probably the biggest one I've had to deal with in my 9 years as mayor.
Yeah, and so from a personal perspective, I mean, obviously, when you get elected as the mayor that anything could come during your term, but now getting hit with this, what went through your mind?
Well, it's just one more thing we've got to deal with. I mean, I get hit with these, things, these problems to solve on a regular basis, and that's part of the job. So, we're attacking it logically, and we're doing our research. We're retesting, double checking, all the things we need to do. But this was one that when I got off the phone, the way this happened was IEPA called us, and then within 5 minutes of notifying us, they sent their press release out. So it got out to the real world before we even had a chance to sit down as a leadership and talk about it. So we've been kind of scrambling to catch up, but I think we're to the point now where we're doing our research, we're educating, we're retesting. That's a good path. We've got a short-term solution if we need it, and if we need the longer-term solution, there are other ways, other places to get water if we have to. I mean, hopefully we won't. Hopefully we're pretty confident that this well, this aquifer is deep enough that this PFAS came from somewhere else, some kind of contamination, and we're kind of hoping that's the way it goes. But we'll keep running all the rabbits in the hole and figure out what the right thing to do is.
Well, we certainly hope that you all are able to resolve it very quickly for both you, those of you who are in leadership, but also for all of the people who are living in that area. I mean, anytime you have to kind of go to alternative means, especially for water, something that you have to have, it can be a big adjustment in just your daily living for a while. So, as you said, you're expecting those secondary results to come back mid-March. Please keep us updated.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Yep, thanks. Have a great day.
Have a good rest of your day. It's 1:15, everyone. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be right back. $117 right now, and for many of you, if you watched or have seen clips of Governor Pritzker's State of the State address that he delivered yesterday, one of the biggest points of contention for a lot of people that has become a secondary conversation has been his 2-year suspension of state tax incentives for new data center developments. It has been a really big conversation in Naperville. We have spoken to some of the residents there before, even here on Chicago Live, and so we wanted to circle back around for a little reaction to that from Naperville resident and business owner Rich Janner. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
So tell me, just right off the top, your reaction to Governor Pritzker's announcement yesterday during the State of the State.
Well, it appears the state is now kind of hitting the pause button and really going to take a closer look at energy prices and the impact of these data centers on energy costs and many other factors. So I do think it's a positive step. This is the point that our opposition group here in Naperville has been talking about for many weeks, the unintended consequences of these mega facilities, not only on energy prices but on many other factors for residents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like, energy prices, water, things of that nature keep coming up. Concerns of that nature keep coming up wherever the data center discussion should happen. What are some of the specific things that you all brought up to the council there in Naperville?
Well, sure. I mean, data centers by definition are industrial facilities, and we believe that they should be placed in industrial areas. We can study this up, down, left, and right, but to me, this seems like common sense. You put an industrial facility in an industrial area, and our main issue was the proximity to homes and neighborhoods and parks and schools. Diesel exhaust, because these facilities have diesel generators. In this case, 24 massive diesel generators has been proposed, and diesel exhaust is a known carcinogen in the same category as tobacco and asbestos. And so, as a parent myself with 3 children, the last place I want my kids riding their bikes and playing basketball is an area that's in close proximity to these diesel generators. So public health and safety was first and foremost. And then, of course, the impact on our property values. Most people, especially folks with young families, do not want to live near a data center, which would have a negative impact on our property values. And then finally, just on the brand of the city. I mean, Naperville is known across the country, but for quality of life and a great place to live and raise a family. And putting a facility like this in such close proximity to homes just flies in the face of that brand.
Yeah, and for Illinois, since 2019, as I understand, there have been 27 projects across our state, maybe more, but 27 that I know of that are really generating massive tax incentives or receiving massive tax incentives for building these data centers. But the complaints, like I said, there is a through line time and time again to what we're hearing from residents in the area. Remind me exactly where in Naperville the city was looking to possibly allow a data center?
This was near the intersection of Naperville and Warrenville Road, so very close to Interstate 88. And, good location. And I can certainly see why the petitioner, in this case, wanted to place it there. But, we think it would have created a parasitic relationship, if you will, a win for the developer, but over time, a loss for the residents of Naperville. And we're glad that our city council sort of did the right thing here. They voted this down 6-1 in their January meeting, and I want to commend them for listening to their constituents and doing the right thing here and voting this down.
There are, as you pointed out, major corporations, huge names behind these data centers. And from what I've read, there are a few of these companies that are going to spend extensive money. They've already said on the record, we're spending extensive money in the next elections. Do you see this being an issue? I mean, the governor may have put kind of the kibosh on it essentially yesterday, but do you see there being some wiggle room on this particular issue? Like, is there a middle point? Is there a meeting of the minds on this somewhere? Is there a room for some type of, some type of conciliation on each side?
Absolutely. And I think, if they find the proper location for these facilities, again, not near homes, neighborhoods, and parks, but there are plenty of industrial areas or wide open areas across our state. And if they simply put these facilities in industrial areas or open areas that are not in such close proximity to where people live and children play, then I think it can certainly be better. I mean, if you're looking for an area of compromise, it would simply be based on location and proximity to homes and that type of thing. I think that's your compromise right there.
Well, you all did your research when you were getting ready to go before the council. Was there a particular state or a development that you could point to that said they got it right?
To be honest, no. It's too early to understand the long-term impact on these data centers. I mean, many of them are popping up over the last 2 years. But these are going to have an impact 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the line. And it would be premature to see exactly, how all of this is going to unfold. I will tell you that, as a business owner myself, I mean, I'm not against data centers, and many of the people in our opposition group are not against data centers. We understand business has to move forward. We believe in technology. We like AI. No problem there. But again, it all comes down to proximity. You have to put these in the right spots. And again, a lot of it comes down to common sense when it comes to placing these facilities.
Yeah, and we've heard from, we got several responses yesterday after the governor's State of the State address. We even had one that was kind of upset, that he put this 2-year moratorium, if you will, on this particular idea. You're saying that, well, you're glad at least there's a pause to reconsider things.
Yeah, I mean, I think people need to understand, and our elected officials need to understand the long-term implication on these types of facilities. And some of these developers, can spend as much money as they want and try to push as hard as they want. But, the bottom line is elected officials are accountable to their constituents, the people that put them in office. In the case of our case here in Naperville, we had over 5,000 signatures on an opposition petition. The opposition movement was certainly not just localized, it was widespread and bipartisan. There's maybe not a lot that's bipartisan these days, especially here in Illinois, but the opposition was both bipartisan and widespread. And so I think elected officials need to listen to their constituents if they intend to stay in office, for more than one term.
Yeah, it was the Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce that said, we are concerned about the proposal to pause the data center tax credit program, which will eliminate a proven economic development tool, as well as the proposed tax on social media platforms. The Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce stands ready to work with Governor Pritzker and members of the General Assembly to champion initiatives that reinforce fiscal responsibility, build a strong foundation on which businesses can grow and thrive, and help bolster Illinois' strong workforce to move the state forward towards a brighter economic future. What do you think about that?
I agree with it. Again, just put them in the right place. If you put these data centers in the right place, they can certainly be positive. There are other locations here in Naperville, for example, that this would certainly fit better. And if the municipality wants to capitalize on the tax revenue that could come, certainly fine. That decreases the tax burden on residents and taxpayers, which is all positive. But I don't want to choke a dead horse here, but you got to put these in the right place. You can't put it in such close proximity to homes and residents. And I think if people take a step back and use the common sense approach here, then I think it could be a win for everybody.
Yeah, it's such a tough one, though, especially, many of us watched the legislature in Indiana, for instance, today, and this larger conversation, which we'll have more of here on Chicago Live, about the possibility of the Bears going there. And Governor Braun says, we are open for business. Like, that's the signal they want to give. And I think that others feel like a pause like this signals we're not ready for business here in Illinois.
Well, there has to be a balance, right? Like anything else, there has to be, you're working a balancing act. On the one hand, certainly we want to attract businesses here to Naperville, and we want to build out our corridor and everything along those lines. And likewise, obviously, the governor appears to want to build, business here in Illinois, but it's a balancing act, and you've got to balance the needs of residents and homeowners and your constituents with the desires of business to develop these types of facilities. So it's a balancing act. It's a push and pull kind of a thing, and hopefully, other communities will get it right as well.
Yeah. All right. We'll see where we go from here for sure. This won't be the last time that this data center debate rears its head. So thank you so much for your time and keeping us updated on what's going on there in Naperville.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Rich, take care. It's 1:28 right now, everybody. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be right back. 1:31, everyone, and we're going to talk about this big development when it comes to an area of the city that has been under a microscope for quite some time here, and we're talking about the practice of ticketing in the city. And I want to go ahead and bring in JC Zollner of Zollner Sweatland LLC, as an appellate court has just reinstated a $20 million class action lawsuit against the city for their ticketing practices. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't hear you. I don't know if it's on our end or yours.
I am definitely unmuted.
Okay. Wonderful. Great to hear you. Thank you again for your time here. Get us caught up on where we are with this case, and then I want to kind of roll back to how we got here.
Well, yesterday we received a decision from the appellate court in Illinois that reinstated a case involving illegal ticketing practices by the city of Chicago, which will allow our case to move forward and hopefully get some relief for the people who are impacted by this practice.
Mm-hmm. You've talked about the fact that the city was abusing laws for financial gain. Expound on that.
Well, this is really a story of government corruption at the most egregious level. Years ago, the city passed an ordinance that prohibited using a cell phone while driving, which I think we can all agree is a great law to have. However, both state and municipal law prohibited the city from sending those types of tickets to its administrative court. Rather, they had to send those tickets to a real court, the traffic court. And the reason for that is because they were serious enough offenses that if you commit a violation, those offenses get reported on your driving record. They get reported to the Secretary of State. That reporting does not happen at the city's administrative courts. But the problem for the city is that if they send these tickets to the circuit court where they belong, they have to share the fine with the state and the county. If they send these tickets to their administrative court, they get to keep every penny of the fine. So what the city did was they simply broke the law and sent all these tickets to the administrative court. The upshot, of course, is that dangerous drivers were never reported to the Secretary of State, but in return, the city got to keep all the fines for itself.
Wow. Now, what has the city fought back saying? I mean, what is their position on this?
Well, the problem with the city is they have a really hard time taking responsibility for the wrongdoing that they've engaged in. So they have hired an army of lawyers to fight this case tooth and nail for the past, I believe it's been 7 years, trying to basically get rid of it and sweep it under the rug, but it's not going away. We've now gotten the green light from the appellate court to move forward. And I think the case will be coming to a conclusion very quickly and will result in a minimum of a $20 million judgment against the city.
What would that look like what happens if there is a $20 million judgment against the city?
Well, then we would proceed to collect on it, and we would distribute the money to the people who were affected by this practice.
We're talking about tens of thousands of traffic tickets. So when people hear $20 million judgment, what would that actually look like for me?
It depends on how much you paid for your ticket. So I believe these tickets, they were charging somewhere between $100 and $500 per ticket. So if you received whatever fine that person received, that would be the amount they would get as part of the judgment.
Oh, very interesting. Okay. Let me ask you this. Have you been on this case since the beginning?
I have, yes.
Okay. So appellate court would say, yes, it's been a while. I mean, you all have been working on this for quite some time. Was there a point when you thought, all right, this is not going to go in our favor? Clearly you continued to fight, but what was it like in the beginning?
I believed in this case from the beginning. Our firm has believed in this case from the beginning. it's clear as day that the city was breaking the law. They actually, once the suit was filed, they stopped this practice. They started sending the tickets to the circuit court. At some point, they even stopped collecting on these tickets. They stopped collection efforts on these tickets. So I know in my heart and in my mind that we're right and we're going to win this case. And we've never wavered in thinking that we're going to lose or that we should just drop the case. We're going to win this case. It's just going to take some time because the city has fought tooth and nail, which is kind of their MO when it comes to litigation nowadays.
And there is a purpose for that. So let me ask you this. I mean, obviously there is a method behind your madness, essentially, for continuing this fight for so long. On their side, there is a reason for fighting this as well. My question would be, a $20 million judgment against the city when we have issues with the budget on a regular basis, does that not hurt the citizens? I mean, yeah, maybe you get $100 back and for the ticket that you got 7 years ago, but ultimately, would that not come back on the citizens some kind of way anyway, because now we've got to make up for $20 million?
Well, look, if the city gets away with breaking the law and no one holds them accountable, what's going to stop them from breaking the law in the future? So, sure, this is going to, take a ding out of the city's, in the grand scheme of things, it's a relatively small ding compared to the city's budget, but it will definitely take a ding out of their finances. But at the same time, they broke the law. And if they are not held accountable, they'll break the law again and they'll keep issuing illegal tickets to people. This is not the only case that we have against the city where they're violating the law. So someone needs to hold them to account, or else people are just going to get ticketed to death in the city, which I think they pretty much already are.
Accountability, transparency, things that really mean a lot to people. And you have 70,000 class members. So what has been your communication with them over these last 7 years?
Well, we did receive a ruling a few years back that certified the case as a class action, which means that all 70,000 of these people are now actually part of the case. So when that happened, the court ordered us to mail a notice to each of these class members explaining what the suit's all about, what's going on, where to get more information, and what their rights are. So there have been communications with the class, and at the appropriate time in the future, if there's a settlement or a judgment, there'll probably be another such communication.
So you said that this isn't the only case that you all have kind of put the city under a microscope for. Can you tell us about some of the other things that you are challenging the city on?
Well, just yesterday, the city council approved a settlement of a lawsuit that we brought where the city was towing cars without providing any notice to the owner before they did so. That was a little bit of a smaller case, but it was, again, a practice that was unfairly targeting people. In that case, we actually represented an elderly woman who had multiple sclerosis, and she had a wheelchair van that had lift equipment on it. And the city, she obviously wasn't able to visit her vehicle every day because of her disability, and the city towed the car without, it was legally parked. They towed the car illegally, and it turns out they had done the same thing to a few thousand other people. So that's just another example of one of the lawsuits we brought against the city. And in that case, we were successful.
Wow. So in the grand scheme of things, this is the government working as it should from a standpoint of checks and balances. What do you say about being a part of that branch that does put the city under a microscope and says, no, you can't do this?
Well, I think there are a lot of problems with our country, but it's certainly one of the greatest countries in the world because of the judiciary system that we have. And someone like the elderly woman we represented in the case I just mentioned, who doesn't have necessarily the resources to fight the case on her own, she can hire lawyers like us, and we can go to court and rectify the situation. So, I mean, how do I feel? I feel great that we get to be a part of a system that improves our government and holds them accountable.
Yeah. What would a timeline look like now that the appellate court has weighed in on this? What is a timeline like? I mean, you said, sure, if there's a settlement, maybe that comes very soon. Maybe the appellate court weighing in this direction signals like, hey, it's not going in our favor, and you get a call tomorrow. But let's say you don't. Do you think another 7 years could go by of fighting this, or do you have a reasonable expectation of how soon this could be resolved?
Well, we have, at this point in the case, it is coming towards conclusion. The case has, all the discovery and the pretrial portions of the case have been completed. So I don't believe it'll be another 7 years. We certainly are going to try to push the case as quickly as we can, and we believe it can and should be resolved either by way of settlement or judgment very soon. But I have a feeling that the city is going to continue to, they have all sorts of ways to delay things and drag things out that I would anticipate them doing, but we're not going anywhere. And if we have to, we'll fight this case all the way to the end.
Yeah. The first person that came to you, obviously we're at 70,000 now, but the first person that came to you, were you thinking it would get this big?
Well, the second we were brought this case, we certainly knew something was wrong. We certainly knew that what the city was doing was illegal, and that we could do something about it through the court system. So yeah, we knew almost immediately that this was a big case, a good case, and one that would hold the city accountable for their actions.
How did you all go about investigating whether it was illegal or not?
Well, this particular case was unique because it's all based on laws that are on the books. So it's based on Illinois state law and the city's own municipal code, where the laws were written that specifically prohibited them from doing what they were doing. So we did do it was more of I would say a legal based investigation than a factual based, because a lot of it had to do with reading the various, Illinois and municipal laws that set this whole case up.
What do you think it says about the city of Chicago that you have to come in with a suit like this?
To be honest with you, it's a little distressing that they would engage in such blatant misconduct, and then when they're caught, they just refuse to accept any responsibility. The government is not like a typical litigant. It's not like a private party where we're sworn enemies with one another. This is our government. They should be working for us. And when this type of misconduct is uncovered, I would expect our government to take responsibility and do the right thing. But I feel like they're incapable of doing that.
All right. Well,
and I will just say this.
Go ahead.
Talking about using this law and abusing this law. Just to prove that point, before our lawsuit was filed, they were issuing about 50,000 of these tickets a year. And again, during that period of time, they were sending it to their administrative court, so they got to keep all the money. Once they were forced through this lawsuit to stop that practice and actually send them to the circuit court where they don't make as much money, they basically stopped enforcing the law altogether. In the years after this lawsuit was filed, they were issuing maybe a few dozen of these tickets a year, down from 50,000. So when the city comes in and says that this law is all about safety of our residents, it's not credible. The only reason they had this law and the only reason they were enforcing it was to make money. And once it became unprofitable for them to do so, they just stopped enforcing the law altogether. Think about that. This is a law that prohibits people from using their cell phone while driving. That's a pretty serious problem nowadays. And the city doesn't even enforce that law anymore. Why? Because they don't make any money off of it.
If we are looking for accountability, we said the city, well, what department are we really looking at when it comes to something like this?
Well, it could be a various different departments. I know, the department, I find it ironic that the whole ticketing apparatus in our city is not run by like the Chicago Police Department. It's actually run by our Department of Finance. I mean, that kind of tells you everything you need to know about the city's, ticketing process. The Department of Finance pretty much runs and operates that aspect of our city. So, I'm assuming it was somewhere along the lines, someone in either the Department of Finance or the law department had made a decision to use this law, and it probably was more than just one person. It may just be an institutional problem, but there was a decision made to use this law not to promote safety, not to make sure that dangerous drivers are reported to the Secretary of State, and that their driver's license are taken away if they commit too many violations. That was all swept aside so they could make a buck.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to kind of lay out this suit for us now that it, as I was saying earlier, kind of has a second wind here. But please keep us updated on where things go from here. I'm sure a lot of folks are waiting to hear how this is resolved.
Thanks for having me.
All right. You take care. 147, everyone. We're waiting to see if we can get our own Casey Cronus on again. Told you when we first began, she's working on a very troubling story that, quite honestly, we've heard time and time again recently about secret recordings and when the person is caught and how they go through the legal system. So there was a man in Hinsdale, a spa owner, who was supposed to be in court today. We're hoping that we can get an update from Casey coming up next. All right, everyone. It's about 1:50 right now. We're working on some technical difficulties with Casey. As soon as we get those worked out, we're going to bring her into the discussion. But let's take you to a live picture that we have. Air Force One has landed in Georgia. Believe maybe in the break everyone came off the plane, but you may still see someone come off of the plane here. The president has a very busy day as usual, but specifically he'll be in Rome, Georgia, as he continues on with what they're calling an affordability tour. Remember, 2026 is a big year for midterm elections. And so the president is actually making this trip to Rome to talk about many different things. If you recall, we also took a live picture when he was in Michigan for a part of this tour. He went to a factory at the beginning of that day, and then in the afternoon, he did a big rally where he spoke. It will be similar to that there in Georgia today. They're facing some uphill battles, actually, in this area where he is there. So the president saying, of course, Georgia, very important state. We've seen lots of different things going on in Georgia over the last few weeks. Of course, there was the FBI's raid or activity at the election board office there in Georgia earlier this year. But now we are seeing again the affordability tour with the president in Rome, Georgia. Here, his press secretary says he's just traveling across the country, fulfilling this promise here, talking about the efforts that they are taking to make life a little easier for all of the people here in our country. And so that's essentially what he's going to be talking about at a steel facility. A little bit later on today, he'll be delivering a speech there and also meeting some of the candidates in the area. Again, special elections that are taking place. The polls will be opening in just a few weeks. So this is a very busy time for all of the candidates as well as the president, who is backing some of them. So 152 right now. I believe we have our issues kind of fixed, the gremlins out of the system, and we're going to bring in Casey Cronus, who is actually on a story about gremlins in the system, essentially. Recordings, secret recordings. Casey, it feels like these cases keep popping up.
Hi, Anita. There have been so many of these cases recently. Now, this is a story that we've been following since last month. Here in Hinsdale, we're in the downtown area. 51-year-old Jason Wade Spencer, the owner of a local spa near First and Washington in Hinsdale, was arrested and charged with 5 felony counts of unauthorized videotaping. Police say he was secretly recording customers at Reflection Spa during massage treatments and other treatments where these customers were unclothed. Now, that was last month when he was charged with those 5 felony counts. But this month, this week, we've uncovered a grand jury indictment, and he is now charged with 64 felony counts of unauthorized videotaping. So we know that this was in the works because last month, police here told us that there were at least 60 victims. So you can assume that there's at least one charge for each victim. This case has been months in the works because it was discovered that there was a hidden camera, allegedly, December of 2024. Hinsdale police responded to the spa. They located a camera, a hard drive, and recording devices, and they spent months combing through the video evidence. The first 5 charges came down again just in the last several weeks, but this week, Spencer is now charged with 64 felony counts of unauthorized videotaping, and he is due in court tomorrow morning for an arraignment. He was scheduled to have an arraignment yesterday, but his attorney apparently did not show up at the DuPage County Courthouse, so it was moved to tomorrow.
Okay, so what's going on with the actual spa, and what kind of spa is this?
So the spa offers various treatments: facials, massages, other body treatments, scrubs. It is currently closed. When police discovered what was going on there, just before his business license was set to expire at the end of December, which coincided with an arrest warrant that was issued for the suspect, the village of Hinsdale decided not to renew his business license. So it is currently shut down. Spencer tried to appeal that decision, but we're learning today that that was denied. So currently the spa is shut down. down. But Anita, there is another Reflection Spa in Chicago, in the Lakeview neighborhood. And I've reached out to Chicago police today and the Cook County State's attorney asking if they are investigating that spa. According to the Illinois business entity search, Jason Wade Spencer's name is still on that business license. The police said that they cannot give me any information about persons of interest or cases that they are currently investigating. So essentially, they did not confirm or deny that they are looking into that business. But when we called that business last month, they were still up and running. Again, right now, no charges tied to that location. We want to make that clear, that it was the Hinsdale location. But you do have to wonder, are police looking into whether this was a possibility at that location as well?
Yeah, and how did this all unfold? I mean, how did we find out there was a hidden camera? Did someone, realize that there was something recording them? What tipped this all off?
This story really goes to show the power of anonymous tips. We don't know who exactly tipped off police in December of 2024, but they say they received an anonymous tip that someone thought there might be a hidden camera, a recording device in a treatment room. Hinsdale police say their officers responded immediately upon receiving that tip, and that is where they did end up finding these devices, and they launched this lengthy investigation. We spoke with an expert last month when we first covered this story who said, this is just a good reminder that if you are in a vulnerable situation, if you are at a spa, if you are somewhere where your privacy should be protected and is expected to be protected, just be on the safe side. Take a moment, kind of look around the room, look for a little red light, look for something that doesn't quite seem right, and don't be afraid to leave. Say, you know what, I'm going to cancel the service, I'm going to reschedule. And he suggested, call in the police, give the tip to police if you do suspect something might not be right. That was advice from Detective Rich Wistocki, who is a cyber crimes expert who we chat with often on our newscasts and on our shows. But it just is a good reminder that even if you feel safe, because these clients, police say, had no idea they were being recorded, it's a good reminder just to take a few extra steps. And they do sell devices, Anita, on Amazon where you can detect hidden cameras and devices. Not the most, reasonable to be carrying a device like that around, but just a good tip to assess kind of what is in the room that might look off. It's
troubling that we even have to do something like that. But obviously, if it gives you peace of mind and keeps you from ending up in a situation like this, it might be worth the cost there. I would like to know, do they have any idea, or has it come out yet, where these images were going? Like, were they just on a hard drive, or what were they in some encrypted place? And then the age range of the victims here.
Those are great questions. So in this case, police say that no other charges have been filed and no other crimes have been known to occur at the business, which essentially means that right now it doesn't sound like these clips were found anywhere else. But of course, this investigation is still underway, and it is possible that that information just hasn't come out yet, that there's more evidence that investigators are digging into as these criminal charges have now come to light, more of them, the 64 counts of unauthorized videotaping. So we are hoping that as this case proceeds toward trial, that we will learn more information. And as far as the age range, police have not specified. All they've said is that there were more than 60 victims. Now we know at least 64 victims, because in the grand jury indictment, unique initials are shown on each page. They don't reveal the victims, but they have each victim's individual initials, so we know at least 64 clients.
And I was just speaking with the mayor of Hinsdale yesterday here on the show, and it was a celebratory time. We were talking about a very positive thing that was happening there in that area. I can hear the bells tolling at the top of the hour right behind you, but I would wonder if you've spoken to people in the area. Hinsdale is a wonderful community, how they're feeling feeling about all of this playing out?
You know, I think like in any situation, if this were to happen in any community, it's unsettling, it's disturbing, especially if you were a client who went to this spa and sought out services at a spa. Like we spoke about, you know, you expect your privacy to be protected when you are in a vulnerable situation. And we do believe that there could be civil litigation tied to this case eventually here in the coming months.
Yeah, I would expect that as well. All right, thank you for keeping us updated on this. I know it's really difficult to be on stories like this and to protect your own mental peace, but thank you so much for staying on it and keeping us updated here. We'll see you on the news at 4.
Thanks, Anita. Always great to chat. Talk soon.
All right, talk to you again soon. Everyone, we're now in the 2 o'clock hour. Give us 2 minutes and then I'll set you up for what you can expect. Okay, everyone, welcome back. It's 2:03 right now. Let me tell you a little bit about where we're going here for Chicago Live in this 2 o'clock hour. So, oh my goodness, before the hour ends, we're going to have a conversation with you, Chicago, about a dinosaur mummy that was just found. I watched some of the images of this. It is outstanding what they were able to do, and so I can't wait to get some more details into their big discovery. Around 2:30, we have a couple of things that are going on, but hopefully we'll be able to speak with the one of the chiefs for the Naperville Fire Department. They have a new device that they're using. It's a new device in the toolbox, you know, to be able to save more lives. And so we'll be able to talk to them about what it is and how they expect to be able to use it and how they were able to add these to what they have to be heroes on a regular basis throughout our area, as all of our first responders are. We do know that right around that time, though, the president should be touring a factory in Georgia. Remember, I told you that he had just landed in Georgia just a short while ago. We were talking about that, a part of his schedule. He's going to be touring a business, going to a local factory. You can see right there as he was coming off of Air Force One, there there in Rome, Georgia. He's going to be touring this factory, and then he's going to be delivering some remarks on the economy. That should be around 4 o'clock. I'm not sure if that's Eastern time or Central for us, which would put it in our show. We'll see. Obviously, whenever it comes to the president, it's kind of a sliding schedule. So we'll see if it fits within our time, but that's where we expect him to be and what we expect him to be doing. But, we are in the midst of tax season, so we got to have a conversation about that. And I'm so honored that a representative from the IRS is actually joining us right now. Please tell us your name and tell us your position within the IRS.
Good afternoon. My name is Evie Cervones Hernandez. I am a spokesperson for the IRS.
Thank you so much for making time for us. I'm hearing, many of us are hearing, that, if you're in for a refund this year, can't help you if you're not, okay? I can't help the folks who aren't getting a refund. But for the folks who may get a refund, it may be bigger this year. Tell us why.
That's right. Well, with the passing of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act last year, new deductions were introduced for those who earn income through tips, overtime, those who are 65 and older. We also have an increase in certain credits like the earned income tax credit and the child tax credit. So for those eligible for these, they could see an increase in this year's return.
Mm-hmm. Are we looking, or do we know at this point in time what an average increase would look like?
Well, the first statistics of the season came out last Friday, and in comparison to this time last year, taxpayers are receiving about an 11% increase in their returns. So we're looking at about $200. So as more information comes in and we release it, there could be an uptick in the returns. We could see an increase in that amount as well.
Very interesting here. And then who would see an increase?
Well, it's very important that those who are eligible for the deductions that we mentioned and who have claimed the credits that I mentioned in the past. Another deduction that was also introduced is for those who bought a car last year, they can deduct the interest in that. So any of those who might be eligible should look into the requirements. And if they are eligible to claim these, we encourage them to do so because it could be a positive return for them, if you want to say that.
Mm-hmm. What are some common, I also see, more information about like a senior deduction. So I definitely want for us to address our seniors, how they might be able to take advantage of this. But what are some commonly overlooked things that you would want people to remind people that they stand to benefit from right now?
That's right. Well, with the new deduction for those 65 and older, this is one that you can get an additional up to $6,000 deducted from your taxes. And what the deduction is that it reduces any potential debt. And so if, in addition to that, you can claim some refundable credits like the earned income tax, that means that there's a possibility that you could end up with a return. So we want people to look into those. The earned income tax credit is also one that's overlooked. About 1 in 5 people eligible don't claim it. So we want to encourage folks to take advantage of the resources. The IRS.gov has tools and information on all this. We have a Get Ready section. So before you file your tax return, we encourage you to visit and assess yourself to see how you can take advantage this tax season.
Mm-hmm. How is staffing on you all's end? Some years a part of the story is just the staffing at the IRS.
Well, all of us at the IRS are committed to providing a great tax season. We do have a staff working at the tax assistance centers for those who have questions or want to resolve a debt or want to see what forms they can include in their tax returns to claim some of these deductions. So we also have people available to take calls, and we want folks to know that there are resources, the website being the first one that we update frequently with instructions and resources. So we're ready for tax season. We want folks to also prepare and present by the deadline, which is April 15th.
Mm-hmm. Whenever we have conversations about government shutdowns, does that affect you all?
Well, currently, we are not part of the shutdown. We are fully funded through September 30th, so fully staffed and ready to help taxpayers this tax season.
Okay, wonderful. I like to put people's minds at ease whenever you hear the word shutdown. It's not everybody. And the IRS is a really important note to make right now, especially. You mentioned people preparing. Obviously, we're going to reiterate that the tax deadline is April 15th, but maybe walk us through what are some of the things, when you say prepare, what are some of the things that people should be putting together or getting together to make sure that this goes smoothly?
Great question. Well, the first thing that we want people to make sure they have, and most folks should have this by now, is any documentation that confirms the income you received in 2025. If you have an employer, that'll be a W-2. If you work on your own or make additional income, there are the series of 1099 forms that you should have with you. Also, if you've made money through investments, your financial institution should be sending you a form as well. And any information on your dependents, make sure all social security numbers you have with you handy so that you can include that. We also want people to assess themselves on, especially with the new deductions, of what they can deduct, what they can claim, who's eligible for the credits. There have been some changes. And so we have that get ready section on irs.gov so that folks can look into that before they file and make sure they have everything they need. But those forms are very important, and we want people to make sure that they have them. And especially if they got married or changed their name or their address, that they update that information with the IRS so that everything is current and there's no delays in your tax return.
Now, usually people kind of come unglued at the wait times if they're calling in. Do you know what the average wait time is like for people if they're calling in for more information with the IRS right now?
Well, right now the tax season started a couple weeks ago, so we are still getting that information. A positive thing on the website is that a lot of the information as is updated, we want to make sure that it's readily available for people on the website. So if you can get a hold, or if it's taking a little bit longer to get a hold of someone at the IRS, we recommend visiting the website because we try to keep that as updated as possible with every information. You can download and print forms that you need. We have a interactive tax assistance that if you have specific questions, you can type them in and it will guide you to where the information is on the website. So we definitely want people to take advantage of that. And based on the statistics, people are taking advantage of that because the numbers show that in contrast of last year, there's a 35% increase on visits. So we are very excited to see that people are using the website as a resource this year.
Ooh, do you have the data on, you said 35% increase, but do you know how many people have already filed?
Yes, we do have an update, and I believe it's a little over 16 million.
Wow.
We do expect about 140 million. So we know that in the first week, that's a strong number, but we are expecting, of course, more to come in. We also know that as people are learning about their options, as free file is available for those eligible to file their taxes for free. Also, the VITA program is very important. We want people to take advantage of those free filing options. We want to see that people are finding where they are, how they can get a hold of them, and the website has information on that as well.
Now, is there any drawback? But look, props to the people who have already gotten their taxes done. Major props. But is there any drawback to waiting?
Well, one of the tips that we give, and one of the, advantages of filing as soon as possible, as soon as you have all your documentation, we want to make sure people file a complete tax return, is that when you wait to the last minute, as with many things in life, people tend to rush over what they're doing. So that's when we see most mistakes being made. People who rush to file because they waited to the last minute. They forget to include information. They forget to claim a credit or a deduction, and they don't file a complete and precise tax return. So then that's when the delays happen. And if you are owed a refund, it can't be processed till that tax return is complete and precise. So we definitely want people to get themselves organized, make sure they have enough time so they can file appropriately. And hopefully, if they file on time and also electronically, which we are recommending because that is the fastest way for a tax return to be processed. And those who file electronically and choose direct deposit usually get their refund if they're eligible within 21 days. So we want to make sure that people are doing that and taking advantage of that option.
Okay, lots of information for us to digest right now. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to make sure the tax filers know, do, or keep in mind right now?
Yes, of course. Well, I'm glad we talked about the new deductions and the credits that people can take advantage of. One change that did happen last year is the IRS announced that it will gradually eliminate sending paper checks for refunds. So if you have chosen to do that in the past, we strongly encourage people to look into receiving that through direct deposit, whether it's through by opening a bank account or including a bank account that they already have and making that change. So that they won't have to have any I guess delays if in getting their refund.
That is a very big catch. Thank you for passing that along to everyone. And I thought about this as you were speaking. You know, if there are some major changes, 11% increase for your refund like that makes people say, oh, I want to go get this money. But could, just as things change because of the big beautiful bill, could things change again? I mean, is this like lasting into the future, or could things change again by next year?
Well, towards the end of the year, usually the IRS shares if there are any changes in the standard deduction, any changes to credits. And so as the year, continues, we will be updating taxpayers on any changes that come. But usually they are there to reflect the times and to help taxpayers, especially as the economy fluctuates. The agency looks into that. And if there are any changes, they do announce it towards the end of the year. So check back on our website, and of course we'll be working with media to make sure that we update and keep taxpayers informed.
Mm-hmm. So this is kind of like inflation adjustment, if you will.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again so much for your time, Ms. Hernandez. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right. 217. Taxes is one of those types of things, like you don't want to talk about it, but you need to talk about it. Hopefully everybody gets your information together and in on time, and hopefully you're getting a refund this year. We'll see. All right, 218, give us 2 minutes, and we're going to progress with our conversations. We were working on getting one of our colleagues up here to talk about the Bears. All day the buzz has been about where the Bears are going to end up in the next few. Listen, we've been talking about it for weeks, but today really got that conversation heated. The start of the day, we were hearing from lawmakers in Indiana, and it's looking like really good in terms of a possibility of the Bears crossing the state line and going to Hammond. Paris Schutz just walked in the door, so I'm thinking he's the colleague who is going to talk to us about those legislators, and maybe if we're getting any response from our legislators here in Illinois. That's coming up next. Give us 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. 221 and Indiana. Rolling out the red carpet to get the Bears.
Hoosiers.
Oh boy, those Hoosiers. They are serious about getting this team.
Yeah.
Harris Schutt's here now, our political reporter. Listen, all week you've been here with us, and you've been in the midst of all of the debates. We'll talk about last night in just a moment here, but the Bears are the big story of the day.
Boy, did they shock everybody this morning. Although I have to say, what happened in the Indiana State House had been planned and expected. What was surprising was then the Bears' statement basically saying Hammond is now our focus, and saying without saying that they're likely going to go to Hammond. But they did not say that it's a done deal. They said we still have to do our site survey, we're going to do our due diligence, and this bill now passed a House committee, but it still has to be voted on the whole House in Indiana. But lawmakers there took a victory lap saying we're all on board.
Yeah.
The way they spoke and the way that statement was, it seemed to indicate this is going to happen.
And here's the thing. When you say, like, oh, it still needs to go before another group of lawmakers in the state of Indiana, how often do you see a, like, 24-0 vote on anything? I mean, there was no opposition.
There was no opposition, so clearly the state really wants it. And I think the Bears, that has to mean something, the fact that, wow, this is unanimous, they really want us, whereas in Illinois, they've been fighting for 3 years and gotten almost nothing. And so, but what happened was that Illinois lawmakers say they were totally blindsided because they said they had a 3-hour meeting yesterday with the Bears. They basically agreed and shook hands on legislation here that was going to be then debated and heard in a committee meeting today in Springfield.
Governor Pritzker yesterday said there's been progress right before we
Not
get
only
this
progress,
today.
he said today, just recently, they had a deal basically. They agreed, and they were going to hear the contours of this today. And it was the Bears that said, "Will you please cancel this meeting today?" But they didn't say why. And the governor also says Bears CEO Kevin Warren didn't come to that meeting yesterday, but they never said anything about Indiana. From the Illinois lawmaker perspective, they thought everything was kind of in good shape moving forward, and then wham, this hits. Now, what was surprising, they say, was the Bears statement. Not that Indiana passed this hurdle. They all knew that was going to happen, or felt that was going to happen. But they thought that it didn't matter. We're on our way here. We're on track. And now no one knows what to know. Like the lawmakers don't know, the governor doesn't know. They spoke. Now here's the other interesting Pritzker just said. He said when he spoke to the Bears after this, they said that Indiana had asked them to put out a statement, like this. And so are the Bears just kind of, are they playing both sides, or are they serious? I only think the only person that really knows this are the Bears.
We're dealing with high stakes.
It's high stakes gamble here.
Yes, we are on all sides.
Well, now there is a timeline, and the Bears sources have always said this timeline is going to be their timeline. And so if Illinois can't get something going before about a week from now, which is when the Indiana session ends.
They said the end of
then
February.
Then it's Indiana. They've kept saying that. Was that a bluff or not? I don't know.
And
But they've said that, and so, but that still means there's time for the state of Illinois to get their act together.
Yeah, you wonder if at least, because when they said that, there was no movement on the side of Illinois. So maybe in seeing that Illinois is coming along, they would extend the deadline a bit.
And well, it seemed like lawmakers were moving this to the point where they could get this done in the next week.
I mean, that's the whole thing.
Things can move fast when the governor wants it and when the leaders want it. Things can move within a matter of hours. Okay, where they don't know where this stands now, and any more than we do.
Let's talk high stakes, okay? Governor Braun.
Yeah.
He said Indiana is open for business.
And we move at the speed of business. This happened quick.
He's making it very clear that this is a bigger signal here. And so when we talk bigger, well, on this side of the argument, Illinois, you're dealing with the governor who has also been mentioned in presidential conversations for 2028. Would that not look horrible to lose your NFL team for a person who is aspiring for higher office?
Absolutely. The politics plays a role here. And already you've got MAGA influencers, some of these folks that tweet kind of MAGA stuff and whether they're paid for by the White House or not. Some of them are, some of them aren't, and they just are supporters. But they're already tweeting, "Wow, Governor Pritzker, you just blew it here. You just lost your big golden pony." You know, but it's not. The thing is, the politics were also bad on the other side that the governor was thinking about. Is like, well, if I'm going to run a Democratic primary, are they going to ding me for saying, "Why did you give away billions to a $1 billion corporation when you got people struggling with costs in your state?" And lawmakers have been on this populist kick for years about like, we're not going helping out billionaires is not on our radar. We need to help out regular people that can't afford their bills. And by the way, there are people in Northwest Indiana that can't afford their utility bills either. But
we're doing that story as well.
We're doing that, but the Indiana government seems to just not care about them, but they're way into the bears. It's like the opposite.
And the hard thing is, too, just like with the prices for the season tickets going up, you know, and you think like,
They just
oh,
announced a
man,
13% hike.
Yeah, like, oh, man, people are struggling right now.
Right.
And then the tickets, people are going to be in those seats.
People will be in those seats.
People are going to be in the seats.
They're going to be in those seats if they go to Hammond. And by all accounts from sources in the Bears, they did their due diligence and studied it and said and have enough data to say, yes, we can sell this place out. We can attract people if we are in Hammond. I don't think I want to be in that traffic on the Skyway.
Let's talk about that. That's where I wanted to go
stopping
from
at the
here.
toll booth to pay $10 or whatever it is to cross it. Oh my God.
That's
a lot of money.
There is the logistical conversation of it all when it comes to Hammond and how that plays into the overall decision as well. Like, okay, how are people traveling there? How would the team, the players, you know, coming from like Lake Forest?
Yeah.
That's a hike.
And I don't think that's the thing that the Indiana lawmakers have really moved forward on. They move forward on the financing mechanism for their stadium, but what about the infrastructure? Now, there are some advantages. You got the South Shore line, which is very old and doesn't have a lot of capacity. It's an electric line. You've got that, which would let you off, I think, a few blocks from the site. Maybe you're only a couple blocks from the lake. Maybe there's a barge or something that takes you from the Navy Pier or something. I don't know. There are ways to do it, and I'm sure the Bears and lawmakers will study this. But here's the other thing. I was on the site. Okay, I interviewed the mayor. It's Wolf Lake. It's around the golf course there. Whatever the Whispering Pines. I don't know whatever it's called. One of those golf course names.
It's a golf course, though.
You know?
Yeah.
And literally, you could throw a rock and you're in Chicago. You're in East Chicago. You know, or East Chicago, but you're in Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah.
You can literally see the houses in Illinois, and the state of Indiana is going to give billions of dollars for this economic development project that will be literally within a stone's throw of Illinois. I don't know how that benefits the rest of the state. It certainly would be a great benefit to Hammond. And the Hammond mayor, who's going to speak in about a half hour, is super excited. And why wouldn't he be?
Exactly.
Why wouldn't he be?
I mean, that is a victory lap.
He told me he dreams of bringing a Ruth's Chris Steakhouse to Hammond. Without the Bears, he can't build a Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Now he can, maybe.
Hey.
So he's and this is thrilling for Hammond.
All
of course,
of it
it'd be
is
the best thing that ever happened to Hammond.
Revenue into Hammond.
Jobs,
Yeah, however that
attraction,
looks.
visitors. It's great for Hammond. But what about, there's a whole state of Indiana here. Hammond's this little teeny corner next to Chicago.
That already has an NFL team. The whole rest of the state that already has an NFL team.
But they do want, lawmakers have talked about they do need to develop Northwest Indiana, but there's all these environmental problems. There's all these smokestacks, oil refineries. Is it going to be expensive to mitigate that? The Bears still haven't done the full analysis of that.
So more to come on that. Quickly, you're taking a break tonight, a breather tonight from the debates. How did last night go?
I think it was a very interesting, if you could stick around for the hour of like getting into the nuts and bolts of how
these were the assessors,
how the sausage is made, how property taxes, the candidates for Cook County assessors who set the value of your property that then determines what property tax you pay. So we got way into the weeds, and there were some big differences between the two of them. They argued, they kept it civil. If you're a wonk and a nerd of this stuff, I think it was very fascinating. I'm kudos to Fox 32 for giving us this time to get into these very weedy kind of debates because they're important.
It's been a great week, and where do you go from here next week?
Well, we're going to do the GOP field for governor, the primary.
Is that
we're going to have a
Monday?
debate on Tuesday.
Okay.
And then Wednesday is that all important 9th congressional district, which is very, very contested, and there's just so many accusations flying around. And you need a whole studio to fit all the candidates in there. We're going to have the top 6.
Okay.
And so we'll see what happens.
All right. So it should be another interesting week. It never ends. It never ends. But thank you so much. And your whirlwind for making some time for us.
Of course.
Okay. All right. 2:31, everyone. Give us 2 minutes, and then we're going to have a conversation about what's going on in Naperville. There's a new tool for the fire department that we want to get all the details on.
All right. Thanks very much.
Welcome back, everyone. 2:33 right now, and we're always happy to see that our first responders are getting the support that they need in terms of equipment that will ultimately help to save lives at the end of the day. So I have Division Chief Bill Croft from the Naperville Fire Department who's joining me now to talk about a new tool in their toolbox. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell me about this new medical device.
Well, it's called the SAM Junctional Tourniquet. It acts for 2 reasons: as a pelvic binder for pelvic fractures in our elderly or anybody that's in a car accident. It also helps with arterial bleeding, where a tourniquet wouldn't be possible to use. So we saw a need for this type of advanced equipment, and we implemented it.
Mm-hmm. Where have you seen it used? Like, what are some other departments that have it where you said, you know, if we're studying whether we should get it, yeah, they're doing a great job with that?
So we've seen no departments in the area using it. This is primarily used in the military. Obviously, a lot of great equipment come from that area, and it's just a great piece of equipment. And you know, I can't take credit for implementing this. A couple of our members in the fire department saw a need for this, and you know, our department is extremely progressive. We got a lot of great thinkers and innovative people on our fire department, and they brought it to me, and I just thought it was a great idea, and we implemented it through Edward Hospital.
Forward thinkers. I mean, that's a wonderful thing to have on your team. Forward thinkers. And
you got it.
Tell me some other times since you've been chief where you said, "Oh, we're leading on this. We're not just following somebody else who's out there, but we want to lead on this."
Yeah, we're extremely progressive, particularly in cardiac arrest survivability. We saw that nationally, survival, neurologically intact survival, is about right around 9%, which is, if you think about it, it's pretty horrible. We did some advancements with mechanical CPR, using an impedance threshold device, using capnography as a bundle of care to increase our neurologically intact survival. So back in 2021, we saw our highest rate of survival jump up to 21%, which is basically led the country in survival. Wow. So, these are some of the things that we're doing. We have also our CART program, our community advocate response team, where we're dealing with, behavioral issues in our community. We know that is a systemic problem. We have an ambulance that's just dedicated to those things. And, we continue to be the tip of the spear on a lot of these things, and we're proud to do it as the Naperville Fire Department.
That's wonderful. I mean, I love hearing that. And I'm thinking that also takes some support from the city council to approve it. I'm hearing dollar signs along the way.
Yeah, we have a great relationship with our city leaders. We have a great fire chief, Mark Pucknitis, who is lets us be proactive, lets us be that tip of the spear. And if it's a great idea for our fire department, he really advocates for our citizens and for our members of the fire department.
You said that a lot of times these would be used on maybe an accident, a call out for an accident. Do you know about how many on average accidents you all respond to in a year in Naperville?
I'd have to look at the data. We run roughly about, last year was a little over 18,000 calls. Wow. Last year. Roughly about 70 to 75% of those are EMS related. We run a number of car accidents, traumatic calls, those types of things. So, that kind of all lumps up into that data set there.
And this SAM, is this a large piece of equipment, or is it something you'd have right there with you right now?
Right there with us. It's easily deployed. It's almost like a latching system where it has a latching system on it where you can tighten it down across the pelvic. If they have some kind of an amputation or an arterial bleed on their leg where a tourniquet wouldn't work, it uses an inflatable bladder where it'll go over the femoral artery and put pressure on that and hopefully stop the bleeding. A number of times in the military, you see these these IEDs that explode, and you have, amputations on these service members, and the tourniquet won't work. So they needed to find something that would stop the arterial bleed, and this piece of equipment is fabulous in doing that. Easy to use, easy to deploy, relatively inexpensive. I urge all of our fire department organizations in our state and across the country to really look into this and implement it in their community.
You mentioned the things that are easy about it. Is it easy to train on?
Yeah, we did extensive training. We have, roughly 200 paramedics in Naperville. We spent a whole week. Everybody had to go through the training. It took about a half hour to get people's hands on it and to use it. They applied it to each other, and they all agreed that this was a great piece of equipment. In the past, when we start talking about like pelvic injuries, we were using just a bed sheet just to actually put around their waist and to try to secure their pelvis. So this piece of equipment is vetted, and it's just a great piece of equipment.
Wow. And is it one, or it's one and the truck that's going out takes it with them, or do you have several of these?
So they're on every ambulance. We have 7 ambulances in Naperville, and the goal is to put it on every piece of apparatus. So every fire truck, every engine, every squad, and every ambulance would have one.
Mm-hmm. And when you talk about the goal, obviously, do they all need to be purchased, or is it that they've already been purchased and they need to get to you?
Yeah, we're going to have to purchase the rest of those, but right now they're just on our ambulances, every single ambulance. And here in the next coming months, we're going to order the rest of them and put them all on our suppression units.
How much are they?
They're a little under $400 a piece.
Okay, all right. So then I'm hearing that maybe there's some community members out there who could help you out with it too.
Yeah, they could. We know we don't work in a silo, and it's all about building relationships in our community, and we're big advocates of that. We have a huge CPR program in our community, and the more we can get people to help, we have programs like Stop the Bleed programs across our state and across the nation, and we just need to keep doing that. We need to utilize the members of our community to bridge the gap until we get there.
Absolutely. It's the village approach, Chief Croft. We're all in this thing together.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. And go Bears. I think the Bears look good in Naperville.
Ooh, okay. Chief Croft is spicy today. Cue up a new debate. All right. What do you think about them possibly going to Indiana?
I don't like it very much. I'm a diehard Bears fan. I'd like to see them stay in the state of Illinois at least.
Okay, so you'd be okay with them maybe going to Arlington Heights?
Yeah, as long as they stay in Illinois. The Bears belong in Illinois.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll see. We'll keep you updated on that, and you keep us updated on what's going on there at the department. We certainly appreciate having a chat with you today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, and our best to your department. 2:43, everyone. Great conversation with Chief Croft. And again, it's good to just see that they're getting the resources that they need to ultimately help us in our time of need. You just never know when that moment might come around for you or a loved one. So I hope that all of their devices get outfitted with this latest equipment that they were able to find. And it's great to see that they are being progressive in trying to get more of those things on their end. All right, so that's what's going on in Naperville. We're going to bring things back to you, Chicago, when we come back. I'm hoping to have a conversation with a professor of organismal biology and anatomy at the University of Chicago about a great, huge new find on their end. So stay with us, give us 2 minutes, and we'll be right back. right, welcome back, everyone. It's 2:45 right now. We're still waiting to get our guest from U Chicago on the line, and as soon as we work that out, we're going to go straight to that conversation. I really cannot wait to chat with them about their new Spinosaurus species discovery. Very excited, and I know my mother, who loves all things dinosaurs, will be tuned in for that discussion. But let's take a look at a couple of things that we're monitoring right now in the interim until we get that going. So let's go to the big board here and see. Oh, I'm sorry. Sometimes you get excited to see the big board. Sometimes you're not. When you actually see it, it's not a good day for the stock market. Not an inch of green on that. I mean, not a speck of green on that screen thus far. And you know, we're not far from the closing of the day. So let's kind of see where this is and what's contributing to it. The S&P 500 has been stuck around a flat line for the year, but the Dow Jones here at one point, so we're not even at the lowest point of the day here. I mean, and we're almost down by 300 points. At one point, we were down by 332 points. So that's about 0.7%. The S&P 500, 0.5% of a slip. NASDAQ Composite shedding 0.6%. And there's a lot that's going on behind the scenes when it comes to this, and a lot of it has to do with investors shifting away from financials and monitoring the tensions between the U.S. and Iran. That will be a big discussion into the weekend, the tension between our country and Iran. And honestly, it's more specifically Iran and Israel, but of course, that is where the U.S. steps in, the fact that it has to do with Israel. So that's why we saw Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, here at the White House last week. You know, we heard from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt just yesterday saying that there had been a productive conversation between Benjamin Netanyahu and President Trump. But we don't really know what productive means in the grand scheme of things here overall. So again, it's still not looking. In fact, I was reading over a report last night that was saying that, you know, in terms of our readiness, our military readiness, that we have ships added another U.S. ship to that region for preparedness in the region, but we still don't know whether they will actually be deployed into any type of action there against Iran. But it is still a possibility, and the closer we get to the weekend, there are more conversations as to where that could go by Monday. So it does look like that is what is contributing greatly to what we're seeing on in the stock market today on Wall Street there in terms of crude oil prices. That's another thing that is directly affected by what's going on when it comes to relations between our country and Iran and what's going on in the Middle East, and especially over the last 10 days and how it could impact the upcoming 10 days here. So we do know that when it comes to the Middle East overall, that President Trump was meeting with his Board of Peace before he went to Georgia today. That was, I think, one of his first things on the schedule for today was he was meeting with the Board of Peace. That was primarily to talk about Gaza and rebuilding Gaza after the war there. But of course, this question about what happens with Iran is still weighing heavily on people's minds, whether we will launch into any type of military strike there in Iran. Still a question to be answered that has yet to be answered as of right now, but it does look like it's had a great impact on Wall Street today, and things are just not shaping up to be good. Not over yet. So we could see a turnaround at some point in time before it closes for the day. But as of right now, just not looking good there on Wall Street, and has not been since the opening bell today. It is 2:50 right now, and another thing that we're monitoring takes us right over into Minnesota. Of course, over the last 2 months, there have been so many questions about Minnesota. The increased immigration raids really took over the bulk of the discussion, and of course the violence that took part as a part of those increased immigration raids. Operation Metro Surge was the name of it for the Trump administration. Obviously, we lost 2 Americans in the midst of those increased immigration efforts there in Minnesota, primarily in Minneapolis. But there's been a drawdown. The agents are out, and now we're actually circling back around to what caused the increased immigration raids in the area to begin with, and that was a fraud investigation. I mean, it was kind of a whiplash kind of effect in terms of the fact that a fraud investigation then turned into increased immigration raids. But the fraud investigation in that area, there were so many things that in terms of a fallout that were beginning to happen. You know, the governor there in Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz, stepped out of the race for re-election because of the fraud investigation. I mean, it was a really big discussion before the immigration raids began and how they unfolded there. So circling back around to it now, the Minnesota legislators are discussing that fraud investigation right now. We're going to listen into a bit of their conversation.
Do we want to are you talking about the fraud issue? Yeah. Oh, on the, yeah, why don't we go over this way then?
So the question, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, what, if any, of these proposals can do to help assist in the prosecution of these cases?
Well, the prosecution is going to have to be done by the prosecuting agencies, which should be primarily the state attorney general. But what we've seen, the state attorney general has not done a very good job in prosecuting the fraud and has had to rely heavily on the U.S. Attorney's Office. There has been some talk, there was some talk last year in our working group in the Office of Inspector General bill as we were going through all of these things about potentially adding some prosecution powers to the Office of Inspector General bill. That's not where we ended up landing. And if we can get these legislative reforms through, and we notice that there's a bottleneck with prosecution, that's something that can be revisited down the road to make sure that we have the prosecutorial resources that we need to get fraud under control in Minnesota.
In addition to, so we've had people transfer or move out or resign from the FBI's office, but I was in DC last week, and we've received confirmation that Mike Stewart, who is the general counsel for the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services, has a team of 700 attorneys and investigators, and Minnesota is their priority to come and assist and fill that void to ensure that that prosecution occurs, or the investigations continue and the prosecution occurs.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Well done. Yeah.
Again, there we were listening into just a bit of the question and answer portion there as some of the legislators in Minnesota circle back around to what started things in the first place, and that was a fraud investigation there. It is a very complicated case that our sister station has been following since the very beginning. You know, the Minnesota Attorney General's Medicaid Fraud Control Unit just actually scored a major victory in the fraud case. You could hear them kind of talking about some of the people who have left the offices over the last month and a half or so, but they have proceeded on with this particular case here. Again, there are multiple levels of fraud that they're looking at. Ultimately, the governor, Tim Walz, said, hey, if there is fraud, if this was widespread, I didn't know anything about it, but ultimately it lies with me. And he stepped out of the race for re-election, but that doesn't mean that the fallout won't continue there or that the investigation into it won't continue either. So we are starting to see more of the lawmakers get back to that discussion now in Minnesota. Again, that's just one of the things that we were monitoring today. There are several people who are charged there in Minnesota as a result of these fraud investigations that are going on. So when we get more information about that case as it's being, now starting to make its way through, we'll be updating you on that, of course. Listen, again, things changed very quickly when it went from a fraud investigation into ramped up immigration efforts in the area, the protests that took place from there as a result of Americans that lost their life in that area, one within just 3 days of the ramped up immigration efforts, but then also another that lost his life towards the end of it, that actually sped things up in terms of federal agents leaving that area. The Border Patrol chief, Gregory Bovino, who was here as a part of Operation Midway Blitz in our area, that ended up leaving Minneapolis after what took place there. So much has changed. Now they're starting to circle back around to where it all began. Unfortunately, the things that happened after that can't be undone. Can't get a life back. But now they're starting to circle back around to where things all began there in Minneapolis, and that was a major fraud investigation in the state. Don't know where it will end up at the end, but they are circling back around to it now. So give us about 2 minutes, and then I'll set you up for our 3 o'clock hour, which will be our final hour here for Chicago Live today. everyone. We're in our 3 o'clock hour here on Chicago Live, our final hour of the day. And you can see our chief meteorologist is here. Now, before we talk about this weather, just so you all know, a few things that we are anticipating in this hour. The Summerfest lineup just came out. Ooh. That goes into the weather a little bit, you know, once we finally get there. Brighter days will come. We're going to talk about vape detectors that are being put in schools. The mayor of Hammond is talking about this big possibility of the Bears crossing the state line. We're going to go there live in a moment. But first,
yes,
the changing conditions outside, I've been able to watch it right outside of our window today. We had the sun, and as we've been in the midst of Chicago Live, that went away.
Yes, so now we have the increasing cloud cover. There's now a couple showers that are beginning to work their way in, but what we're watching for throughout this afternoon into the evening hours is going to be thunderstorm development. Now, when it comes to the severe potential, the best chance of anything becoming strong or severe, it is farther downstate. So downstate Illinois, downstate Indiana, places like Champaign, Indianapolis, going to be dealing with the potential of some strong to severe thunderstorms. Here, I think we may get one or two that pop off in places like Kankakee County, Newton and Jasper County, so that far southern tier, we could be seeing a couple strong, maybe severe storms. And if we do, then all hazards could be possible, so we'll have to keep an eye out for that. But at this point, you know, I'm feeling pretty hopeful that I don't think today's our day for the severe storms. So don't entirely let your guard down, have ways to get those alerts, but I think for a lot of us, we're just going to have your average showers and storms rolling through. But then after the storm system, Anita, back to business. We're back to winter. Tomorrow morning, we're going to have snow showers around.
What?
That could be impacting the Friday morning commute.
Snow?
I know, we're not ready.
Say it ain't snow.
So temps will technically go in the books in the 40s, but that's where we're going to be in the early morning, and then we drop into the 30s during the day.
Oh, we were just at 60.
Oh, it gets worse, Anita. So tomorrow, winds are going to be gusting as high as 45 miles per hour, so those 30s are going to feel like 20. So it's going to be a little bit of a shock to the system tomorrow. And then over the weekend, we have 30s expected. And then there's even a chance for some lake effect snow in northwest Indiana Sunday into Monday morning. Temperatures next week, we are going to begin to moderate a little bit more, back up into the 40s. But yeah, it's going to be a chilly weekend for us.
Oh my goodness. I can't even believe we're talking about snow.
I know.
Tomorrow. I mean, we literally were shedding coats the other day.
I was wearing shorts yesterday. Yeah, so tomorrow, definitely, for those of you that are closer to the Wisconsin state line, I think that's where we could be seeing a dusting to maybe a half inch. So not a ton, but certainly enough to make things a little slick out there. We still have, you know, ground temperatures over the last couple of days. Of course, the ground is still frozen in a lot of areas, but road temps have been able to warm up, so we will likely get a little bit of, you know, some slick spots developing tomorrow morning with some of that snow. So just kind of keep that in mind. But overall, a fairly quiet weather pattern once we get past the showers and storms this evening and tonight.
And what is the time frame on that?
So anything that could be, you know, a little bit stronger, bringing some of those heavier downpours, is really going to be from about 4 or 5 p.m. through about 10 p.m. After that, I think we're in the clear, and then we're just turning our attention to high winds. So we do have a wind advisory that's going into effect early morning tomorrow, and that's going to last through the day tomorrow as well.
Okay. All right. So a lot to monitor there, especially tonight into tomorrow.
Yes, we're going from the thunderstorm threat straight to the wind threat. So, you know, for those
to snow.
To snow. Yeah. So a lot happening in the next 24 hours.
Yeah.
Once we get past this, though, then it's just cold. We can do that.
We've done it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for giving us an update. Usually I would talk to her a little bit longer, but I'm hearing that this press conference in Hammond is starting up. And of course, they've been the big talkers for the day, as we have been seeing big time movement going on with the Bears in this conversation as to whether they will cross the state line. Let's go ahead and take you live there.
Yeah. Plug into the side of the live view, and then I'll wait to hear what kind of sound we get. I know.
Hammond is ready to partner with the state and the Chicago Bears and do whatever it takes to make this project a success and to welcome the Bears to Hammond, Indiana. The Ways and Means Committee voted 24-0 today to advance this bill. I've been watching the General Assembly my whole career. You can't get 24 state reps to agree on many things. They agreed today, I mean, Republicans and Democrats alike, to spend billions of dollars in Hammond, Indiana, to bring a multi-billion-dollar, world-famous NFL franchise to our state, making us one of the few states in the country with 2 NFL teams. Indiana's headed in the right direction, and I want to thank every member of the Ways and Means Committee today for doing what they did. The move by the state of Indiana and the Bears tells the rest of the country that Indiana is not just keeping up, it's leading. Although the location has not been determined, we're not going to talk about that because it's not me to talk about it. This is the Bears project, and when they're comfortable and ready to talk, they're going to talk about it. But basically, Senate Bill 27 is important to the city of Hammond because it defined the term city as the city of Hammond, Indiana. I know we've seen a lot of proposals coming from other municipalities and even other states that decided to jump into this ordeal. All along, we knew that Hammond was the chosen location, but we couldn't say anything. Today, I was finally freed in Senate Bill 27, defined the term as city. And those of you that know me know I like to talk. So the past couple months has been really hard on me, so I'm finally free, and thank you all for coming. But it lays out a solid frame. Senate Bill 27 also lays out a solid framework for the state's commitment to bringing the Bears to Hammond. The Bears today in their press release mentioned their commitment to finishing the due diligence to fulfill their vision and make a site near Wolf Lake and Hammond their future home, and to build a world-class stadium there. This legislation sets out and establishes the framework for the Northwest Indiana Stadium Authority and the Stadium Board, where Hammond and other governmental entities have representation to help set up property acquisition, finance, leasing, construction, and operation of the stadium once built. This legislation also sets out and establishes the framework for the Northwest Indiana Professional Sports Development Area in Hammond. Our redevelopment commission is ready and prepared to move this forward and to establish it per state statute. This allows an area to include a stadium, parking, training facility, facilities to manage and operate the team. This legislation sets out and establishes Northwest Indiana Stadium Developed District in Hammond that operates much like a TIF district does. And as the Speaker of the House pointed out today, this framework is not foreign to Indiana. It's the exact same way that Indiana got the Colts deal done with Lucas Oil Stadium, as well as the Pacers deal done. So Indiana, for Hammond, Indiana, Northwest Indiana is being treated exactly as they treated Indianapolis when they got these types of deals done, which I know makes us all feel really good. Of course, the state's going to spend over $1 billion on this proposal, and it's going to require payback. Hammond, there will be taxes on the people that enter this facility. Hammond is expected to pass an admissions tax that will apply to everybody that enters the facility to help pay back this $1 billion. Lake County Innkeepers tax, so the people that come to Hammond and stay the night, that tax is going to go up. The Lake County Food and Beverage tax is supposed to be instituted, and I know county officials have been briefed on this, as well as a Porter County Food and Beverage tax, which is the same model that they used in Marion County and the surrounding counties when they built Lucas Oil Stadium. This proposal is fair. It's an amazing opportunity for our city. It's going to create thousands of jobs. The Bears themselves is thousands of jobs, not to mention the construction jobs that go into the stadium, the parking facilities around the stadium, and the ancillary development that's going to come, and it's going to come. I've heard a lot of people say, you know, Mayor, I've read a lot of smart studies from people, and they say these stadiums don't benefit the area they're located in. I'm willing to give it a shot, because I tell you what, I think a lot of these places, if you're in New York and you say, yeah, what does the stadium do for us here? Or if you're in Chicago, you already got a theater district. You already got hotels. You got all this great development. I have a feeling when we locate this to Hammond and we make this whole development over there, you're going to see the same types of things that develop in downtown Chicago start to develop in Hammond. And it's going to make a major difference on the quality of life of our residents, on our city, and our state. I want to thank everybody for being here, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is a happy day. Thank you guys for being here. So I'm going to get your questions, I promise. So, yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Hi. Not directly. But there will be, I imagine, property values increasing, which raises your taxes, because in Indiana, we are taxed in our homes at 1% of your home's value. So if you have a $100,000 home, you get property taxes of $1,000 a year. If your home increases in value to $200,000, your taxes are going to go up to $2,000. But your property went up $100,000 in value, and I realize there's people that are struggling to make ends meet. But, you know, I think it's a good thing when property values rise, but unfortunately that also drags up your tax rate as well. But nothing directly, ma'am, to answer your question.
Do you think some still feel that this could still be some type of leverage for the team to eventually pursue the deal in Arlington Heights?
Yes, ma'am. Initially, this has been a process. I've been involved in this since the holidays. The holidays. Okay, I'm not going to be specific, but I'll have to be honest with you. Early on, I was very skeptical. But anytime you have an amazing opportunity in economic development, you pursue. And we pursued. And there was one day when property owners were being notified by the state of Indiana that they wanted to acquire their property for this deal. That's when it started to get real for me. And I don't want to be specific, but there is going to be property acquisition involved in this process. And there's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars of infrastructure that's going to be involved in this, hundreds of millions of dollars of infrastructure improvements to that area involved in this. But so when people were starting to be contacted by the state of Indiana, that's when I felt that it was real. And you know, at the end of the day, if the Chicago Bears spend $10 million in Hammond and they end up saving $1 billion in Illinois, I can't control that. That was a good investment by the Bears. But if Illinois can match our deal, I don't know if they will, but let's say they match. Let's say we have $1 billion on the table and Illinois puts $1 billion on the table. I think 9 times out of 10, the Bears pick Indiana because we're a better business climate, and for the next 30 or 40 years, Indiana is going to be in a better position than Illinois, and I think the Bears, as any big business, are looking to save money. So I think they're going to choose Indiana, personally. Yes, ma'am.
Can you speak to essentially what the Wolf Lake area has to offer, especially because I know Gary was in the mix, Portage was in the mix. Why is it Hammond that you think is now where they're trying to move forward?
Okay. Location. Let's start with that. All right. I think for the Bears, I can't speak for the Bears, but if I was running the Bears, I would want to be as close as possible to Soldier Field. But if you could be only 20 miles from Soldier Field and get all the amazing advantages Indiana offers to businesses, why wouldn't you put your toe over the line, get all the business advantages that Indiana offers, and you're still a bike ride away from Soldier Field? I ride my bike to Soldier Field, so so I think that's to answer your question. Thank you. Yes, sir.
What percentage, if you had it, what percentage roughly of this will fall specifically on people of Hammond versus Lake County residents? Is there a difference in there? Can you give any sort of specific percentage?
I cannot, but I could tell you that the model that is being used in this is just like the model they used in Lucas Oil, which is that I don't think that Speaker Houston, Senator Mishler, or Governor Brown are looking at this as a Hammond project. They're looking at this as a Northwest Indiana project. And as such, the mayor of Valparaiso today testified in the House that it's going to help his city. And Valparaiso is 30-something miles that way. And the mayor, the Republican mayor, went down to the State House to testify on Hammond's behalf. So he sees benefit out there in Valparaiso. So, yes, sir.
Mayor, there has been talk about perhaps there being tolls on some of the expressways here, the Borman, I-65. Is this part of that package? And what's your message to the Bears? Do they now make a decision on whether to commit to Arlington Heights or to Hammond?
First off, we already have a toll road. And I don't think I'm almost certain there's no new tolls that are going to be required in this, as far as anything that's not tolled already. Okay? So you're not going to find out the Borman is getting tolled. No, that is not. If there's change to the tolls, it's going to happen on a toll road. All right? First off, what's my message to the Bears? Move to Hammond. Come over here, Kevin. Come over here, George. We're a great environment. I want to see Caleb Williams driving down Calumet Avenue, going to his house in Robertsdale. So, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And their residents. But I'm curious, the fan side of it, Chicago Bears fans that may not have been expecting this to be a reality. What would you say to Bears fans that you have to reach your hand across and invite them over to our area?
We're closer. I think for a lot of, if you're on the south side of Chicago, they should be applauding this move because Arlington Heights isn't close to, and there's hundreds of thousands of Bears fans here in Northwest Indiana. I'm one of them. Arlington Heights that's a haul. And I mean, it's discouraging to hear, to me, it's discouraging to hear the Bears even considering Arlington Heights. I think if you're in downtown Chicago or on the south side of Chicago, they should be applauding this move because we're going to be much closer to you, the fan, than if the Bears moved to Arlington Heights. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. In the back.
Will the residents of Water Gardens be affected?
No, ma'am. Easy answer. No, ma'am. Thank you. That was, yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, what are some of the potential roadblocks that you still see that have to be overcome in order for this to become an official thing?
Sentimentality. It's a big decision for the Bears. You know, I mean, the San Francisco 49ers play in Santa Clara, right? The Dallas Cowboys play in Arlington, all right? The Kansas City Chiefs just moved to Kansas City, Kansas, right? I think that's the biggest obstacle that the Bears are facing right now is, are we comfortable with making our mailing address Hammond, Indiana? I think once they get over that and once they see all the advantages that Indiana offers, I think the decision is going to be an easy one. I could. Is
that actually going towards the stadium itself, which was similar on the Arlington Heights proposal? And then secondly, can you explain the ownership of the stadium, how that will work?
No. Okay. But it's not that. Maybe they intentionally left me out of the details, sir. Okay, because I do like to talk, and I'm not trying to be rude. Okay, but I can tell you this: the $2 billion or $1.5 billion that the state of Indiana is putting up, they want to get paid back. And I don't blame them, all right? So, quite frankly, we made early commitments, City of Hammond. Obviously, it's a big part of our city that we'd be potentially giving up to the Bears. Those were our commitments early on. Once the state realized we were serious, that we were good partners for them, they started negotiating these types of details, sir. And quite frankly, I don't feel it's my place if I'm not writing a check to be involved in that, you know? But I'm super happy that the state chose us. It's one of the most amazing, I've been married 22 years. This is the most amazing day of work I've ever had. So, thank you. Yeah, John?
Can you characterize your involvement in your discussions with the Bears themselves?
Sure. First off, I'm a fan. So, meeting people, talking to people about moving to your city, people that you see on TV, it took a couple seconds to get over that. So, but I think I think the Bears are frustrated with what's going on in Illinois. I really do. I feel like they're tired of asking and being vilified. It hit me. I went to the playoff game. I was at the Bears-Packer game, and we were singing the fight song because we won that game. It was a good one. And when we were singing the fight song, you get to that part, it says, "The pride and joy of Illinois." And I was thinking to myself, because I'd met with the Bears ownership by then, and I was thinking to myself, they're not being treated like the pride and joy of Illinois. And I think that's a good way to sum up, in my impression, how they feel. It's just, I think they're sick and tired of it. They're sick and tired of the runaround. They are a world-class organization, and they can't get the deal done in their home state. And as soon as they come to Indiana, they get a unanimous vote, Republicans and Democrats, out of the House Ways and Means Committee. It's night and day, the treatment that the Bears are receiving in Indiana versus the treatment they're getting in Illinois, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, Gary Airport's about 5 miles that way. It's I hope so. I mean, it wouldn't make sense if you're flying in the Kansas City Chiefs. We might as well stay on that. If the Kansas City Chiefs are flying in, why would you fly into Midway or O'Hare when you got the Gary Airport right in our backyard? So I think that's a great. And I talked to Mayor Melton this morning. I appreciate him calling me and being a gentleman. And I definitely mentioned that to him, Mayor Melton. The Gary Airport is going to be a huge beneficiary of this deal. So, yes, sir. Thank you. Hi, Councilman.
Mayor, it's a pleasure to have you today speaking about this for our district in the city of Hammond.
Thanks, Councilman.
I'd like to know, is there any time frame about what happens next, either by the state or by the Bears? Do we have any knowledge of how that's going to play out in time frames?
I can tell you, in Indiana, this bill still has to finish going through the House. That should happen relatively quickly. And then it has to be brought back over to the Senate. And I have every indication that the Senate's going to be similar to the treatment it's getting in the House because of the leaders that are involved. And then the governor's already indicated he's going to sign it. So I think the Bears already know what our deal is, and it's on their table, but it's being formalized, okay? This is our tentative offer, but we have to go through the process. Now, I imagine Illinois is going to try to rally. It's the pride and joy of Illinois we're talking about, right? And then when Illinois puts their offer next to Indiana, I think their offer is going to pale in comparison to the offer from Indiana. And I don't think there's any way possible that Illinois can match what we offered the Bears. Indiana as well, I could assure you of that, Councilman. Thank you for the question. Yes, sir.
Is there a deadline for the Bears to act on the Indiana offer, or do they just sit on that for another year?
Good question. I can't tell you specifically, but I can only tell you from what I know from speaking with the Bears, they're anxious to get started. I think if they had their druthers, they'd be digging a hole this summer. I think the Bears are anxious to get this moving, so I don't think they want to sit on it, personally. Yes, sir.
When you talk about, there's going to have to be other stuff acquired and such as far as, around the potential site, what do you have in mind, or what have others maybe had in mind as far as buildings surrounding the stadium, like hotels, other certain things like that? What is the vision for that, or what would be the vision for that, wherever that ends up being?
Bearsville, that's the vision. I want it to be like a section of our city. Where do you live? I live right off of Bearsville. Whatever the Bears think it could be anything they want. This is a blank slate. When the Bears and I first started talking, they said, well, where would you want the stadium?
Oh, boy.
We want you.
What a discussion that is happening in our state and in Indiana right now. So you were hearing there from Mayor Thomas McDermott, the Hammond, Indiana mayor, as the legislature there, the Senate has now overwhelmingly passed legislation that moves this ball forward. We're moving the chains right now to a possible touchdown for the state of Indiana when it comes to getting the Bears to cross the state line here. He says this is a fair deal, an amazing opportunity, comes with thousands of jobs. How often do you see a bipartisan 24-0 vote there in the legislature? And this is about spending billions, really. He said, you think of how few states have two teams. They hope to be one of those teams. He was thanking the Ways and Means Committee. He says that they are not just keeping up, but they are leading in the country. The state of Indiana, not just keeping up with other states, but that they are leading. But it's not a done deal yet, of course. He says this has to go through the House, back to the Senate. But the governor there, Mike Braun, has already made it very clear he is eager to sign this deal. He wants them to get something done. He talked about the many other things that this particular piece of legislation lays out in terms of moving things forward here. A stadium, parking, a training facility. You know how much of the conversation we have had today about, they would have to fly or drive down from Lake Forest, a training facility. He says he hopes to see Caleb Williams driving along the roads there in Hammond to get to his home. So maybe that some of the team members would choose to live in that area as well, maybe, is what he's hoping one day. He said that this is the same way, in terms of the legislature, same type of deal that they put together to acquire the Colts years ago and the Pacers years ago. And so they're looking for Northwest Indiana to build up Northwest Indiana now here. He said, yes, of course, this is going to come with some new taxes for people who live in that area, whether it's admissions taxes for the game or food and beverage taxes, the innkeeper, so people who are staying in that area who come to the game. But he says there is a major difference in what they are offering as opposed to Illinois. And he said, can Illinois match the deal? He says it pales in comparison. They are a better business environment, according to him. It's 20 miles from Soldier Field, so he says it is closer than Arlington Heights and 5 miles away from the Gary Airport. So no, people would not have to fly into O'Hare or Midway and then make the drive. That they expect, yes, property taxes may increase here. They're already talking about some property acquisition around that, the site area there. He says he's been involved in the discussion since the holidays. He was skeptical skeptical early on, but now he's fully on board with this. He says he's almost certain that this is going to happen. He believes that this can happen here, and so he named some of the other places where it has happened. And of course, Kansas City would come to the top of the list in terms of the discussions that have most recently happened with a team moving across state lines because they felt it was a better business environment for them. He said this is the most amazing day he has had at work in his life, and that when you think about the fight song, the pride and joy of Illinois, that the team is not being treated like that right now here in the state of Illinois, and it's night and day for them. So we'll see what happens, but they are really taking a victory lap today as opposed to what's going on here in the state of Illinois, where there was supposed to be a meeting that was happening this morning in our legislature that was scrapped. So much more of that conversation to come in the 4 o'clock and on throughout the 9 o'clock news this evening. But let's get you back to some of our conversations here on Chicago Live. Of course, we were hoping in the 2 o'clock hour we would be able to get to you, Chicago. We had to move it to the 3 o'clock hour, and that's okay. It allowed us to listen in on what's going on with Hammond and the Bears. But now we want to get Dr. Paul Sereno. He is a professor of organismal biology and anatomy at the University of Chicago to talk about a Spinosaurus species discovered in the Central Sahara that they had a part in finding. Thank you so much for joining me.
Not at all. It's great to be here.
Oh my goodness. What is that behind you?
Oh, that's a big skull of a Spinosaur. In fact, the last Spinosaur that was found more than a century ago, that is Spinosaurus aegypticus, named after Egypt, where it was found. We've waited since 1915 to name a new species and find enough of it, and boy, did we get a new one. I mean, it really has a crest like no one has ever seen before, which is why we call this one Spinosaurus mirabilis, which means the astonishing Spinosaurus. But it was like you say, it was an amazing discovery in one of the most remote places on the planet, the heart of the Sahara Desert, and it took quite a bit of a team and a guard actually to get in there and to get out and tell the story.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so tell us, like, what goes through your mind when you make a discovery like that, and what does it do for a program like you all's?
Well, you know, we're excited. We want to do more research. We want to go back. We want to make films. We want to do science papers. This story is important enough that it got the cover of Science magazine. There's no higher honor than that as a scientist here in the States. But it started out like some stories, like a breadcrumb trail. This is what I like, and this is what people really like to understand about this. I actually was looking at this giant volume that was published in 1966. And in French, and I read that this man in a very remote place in the Sahara found a dagger-shaped tooth of a dinosaur. And I thought, no one's been there in 70 years. I've worked in Niger. That's the country we're talking about. It's north of Nigeria. And I thought it became my fossil Shangri-La. I had to get there. And I was collecting tons of dinosaurs around trying to get to it, but you have to understand, it's in the middle of a sand sea, and they call it a sand sea because it does look like an ocean. I mean, you go there, you're seeing sand dunes around, it's beautiful, and you're wondering how you're going to get out or get in. And so finally the day came in 2019, and I'm in my camp and about ready to leave because I got back to the site that he mentioned. We found more teeth, but there was nothing we or a drone could find for miles around it. So we're getting ready to leave, and into the camp comes what looks like to be a Tuareg, a nomad Marvel figure. He's a guy, I got my field book up actually, 2019. He's a guy wearing a black overcoat in 120-degree weather, carrying a sword on his back with a shesh, sunglasses, and a Honda moped. And this guy says, you know, I know where some bones are, I can tell you. And I asked him, I said, tell me about them. And he said, they're black. We were going through several languages. And I never saw black bones. And I looked at this guy, something about him. And so I said, okay, take us. And we stocked up on gas, enough for 2 days. And we needed it because after a day and a half, he had taken us more than 100 miles into the desert. I mean, we're trying to keep up with him, getting stuck every once in a while and wondering where we're going. We were hoping we were still in Niger when he drives right up to the biggest bone I've ever seen in my life in Niger. It's a 6-foot bone. And it's actually a leg because there's the rest of the leg going into the ground. We had at that point only about a half an hour to spend there, ironically, because we didn't want to be caught in the dark somewhere in the desert, perhaps stuck without gas. So we grabbed some bones. And one of the things we grabbed, carefully, was this tooth. Now, this tooth is characteristic. This is a spinosaur tooth. For us experts, we knew what it was. There's a spinosaur here. And then we prepared some of these bones here. And what you're looking at is the jaw of the very long snout of the Spinosaur dinosaur. This is the front end of the jaw. Then something happened that we didn't expect, and it caught us off guard, the pandemic. And I couldn't go back. The world shut down. I formed a team, we communicated, we talked, but we couldn't go back. Finally it broke, and an anonymous donor came to my door, knocked on my door, with enough money, and let me just tell you, it was 7 digits. For me to cash and carry, because only cash works. So downtown Chicago, there were some bankers that were saying, "Are you out of your mind?" I said, "No, I'm $1 million. I'm trying to find this Spinosaur, and I got a nomad. He's going to take me back." Okay, we're not responsible for you. And then you go through the airport, you go all the way there, and you're meeting team members, 20, from all different countries, young people. Some of them have never seen the Sahara, but this is the time of their life. They take 3 months out of their life and put their hat in the ring for us to find something. And so we came back to the Sahara and found more pieces you see here. Now this, we didn't know what this was until we found this piece, which is the top crest of the dinosaur. And then we knew we had a new species because it looks very different than the skull behind. What does it look like? It looks like this. And here's our skull. Now, we take CAT scans and then we machine in hard plastic, we machine the skull so we can put all the bones together that we found. Big, small, mature, immature, we put it all together. And this dinosaur is very unusual. It has a very low snout, unlike the other one, but then this is the astonishing feature, a crest that goes towards the sky. It's thin, asymmetrical, it goes towards the sky, it's got grooves on it. It would have been covered in life with keratin, and over here we've reconstructed it. So here we've reconstructed what the crest looks like on the top of the skull. And on this side here, you can see the bone and its covering, which is a keratin sheath. And it's just like a cassowary or a modern bird that has a crest on the top of the head, only this one is 2 feet tall. And so we made this, and we're very excited about this, so that you can touch it and even try to scratch it, but you won't be able to, because this is going down to the Children's Museum, the Chicago Children's Museum, in 1 week. The kids are going to drag their parents and be the first to see this astonishing new Spinosaur species. You know, the dinosaur that's taken Hollywood by storm. And now we've got one with a crest like no one's seen, and they're going to be able to see it. Because, you know, we're going to start a contest to color the Spinosaur, because, in fact, we don't know. We don't know what it was colored like. This is somebody's rendition. I think that it was brightly colored, and I gave it this color because it really is an animal that's trying to display. It is found in the middle of the Sahara. Why did science put it on the cover? Because we discovered really basic facts about this dinosaur, its life, and the evolution of this group. We discovered that the teeth project into each other, which is classic fish catching, found only in crocodiles and things like ichthyosaurs and plesiosaurs that eat fish. And then we found that this species with this huge crest is not on the coastline. It's in the middle of the desert, which even 95 million years ago would have been green, but it would have been far from a coast. This is not a marine diving pursuit predator. This is an animal that was bumping into other animals on land, living by a river, and I would not want to be near it if I was a land animal, but it was commandeering fish in the river. It is not a diving animal like an ichthyosaur or a Loch Ness monster. It has nothing to do with the ocean. This is a land animal, the likes of which we have never seen at any time in North America. I mean, there's T-Rex here in North America, and there's no T-Rex in Africa. And this is Africa's version of an animal the size of T-Rex. And it's an amazing story coming out of the Sahara Desert. I'm very proud for the country of Niger. All the bones are going back to Niger, and we're started a training program there. And just a couple of months ago, in the capital city of that country, they trusted me. Well, I've designed a museum. The island in the center of the capital, they have passed a decree devoting it to a museum in readiness for the return of these amazing creatures. So it's part of the fun of being a paleontologist. Sometimes you work here in the fossil lab, Washington Park, right near the university. Sometimes I'm working here, and sometimes I'm in the middle of a desert, and it's just so much fun to be able to share it with people.
Paul, my mind is like right now. I'm in. This is amazing. And you said, the kids are going to be able to see it, but the kids at heart, I know, are going to be running to go see that thing too. My mother, who is addicted to Jurassic Park, I know she's going to want to come up and see it as well. I mean, this is just an amazing, astounding discovery that we all owe you a debt of gratitude for staying on top of and following that first little breadcrumb and until you got to this major discovery. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and this major moment with us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Take care. Wow. Oh my goodness. It makes now, my mother literally watches Jurassic Park like maybe once or twice a week. Now I want to go see Jurassic Park again. Anyhow, let's do a woo-saw moment. Our next guest is already on the line. I'm looking forward to that discussion as well. So give us 2 minutes and we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, everyone. It's 3:40 right now. We have a couple more conversations to go before we turn you over to the 4 o'clock news. Did you know that according to the latest CDC figures, more than 1.6 million U.S. middle and high school students use e-cigarettes? Troubling statistic there, and there is a Chicago-based IT firm that is now installing vape detectors in hundreds of schools across the country. So I want to bring in a representative from Tusker to tell us a little bit more about what they're doing and the why behind it all. Thank you so much for being here. Please tell us your name and your position within the company. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I can hear you. I was saying, would you please tell us your name and tell us your position within the company?
Yeah, Todd Zafrosky, Regional Sales Manager at Tusker.
Todd, tell me a little bit about why you all have embarked upon putting these vape detectors in so many schools.
You know, we've been working with this company, IP Video, who got acquired by Motorola for a number of years, and we saw kind of a gap in the market. We've been working with schools across the country for a number of years and doing a ton of physical security stuff with them, amongst other things. And it's been a growing issue within these schools. And so one of the conversations that we've had with some of the superintendents, principals, people that work there is that this has become a real need. And I mean, the numbers that you just shared are crazy. And so we've been trying to figure out ways to help support them. And so we were able to find this great product that we've been working with for a number of years. And we've been delivering across schools, helping them install it and helping them figure out ways to monitor it. And it does more than just the vape detection. So it's been a great tool, and schools have loved it.
Okay, tell us about the more. What else does it do?
I mean, some of the stuff is a little bit scary that it's able to do, but, you know, vape, THC, smoke, it's able to tell how good the air quality is in the rooms that you're putting in, especially, you know, with sicknesses and stuff like that. It's able to say, hey, we need to do some cleaning in this room and stuff like that. There's aggression alerts, there's keywords. If someone yells help, it's going to be able to trigger it.
Wow.
It has some gunshot detection warning. So it goes much more beyond just the vaping and that, but it's also become a great tool for helping safety. And that's the number one thing. Like, kids are so important to our culture and what we're trying to achieve in this country is like, we got to make sure they're safe and healthy.
Absolutely. And how exactly does it work? How does it do all of that?
It's through the programming that this company was able to build. So as soon as it's able to detect the air quality has gone down, it's able to synthesize within the system what is in there, and then it's able to set alerts to principals or whoever has the notification set up. So you're able to get notifications via email, push alerts to apps on your phones. And in some of those areas where you necessarily can't have a camera, bathrooms, it's able to detect what's going on there and then trigger some kind of alert and be able to alert, you know, principals of what's going on to help make sure that kids are safe and, you know, doing things that they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, it sounds like this is a widespread kind of system, but do you have a piece of the vape detector with you?
I do not, unfortunately. I wish I did. Honestly, I thought about it about 10 minutes before here, and so I wish I had a good way of showing it. But if I had one, and if I just spray a little something on there, it's able to tell quickly what's in there, what's in the air, if it's good or bad.
Now, when I say 500 schools in nearly every state that you all have put these vape detectors in, tell me a little bit about, I mean, in Illinois, how many are in Illinois? How many school districts?
We've helped deliver over 100 of them across Illinois, and we're hoping to do more. With Motorola being a great Chicago-based company, they've been a great partner for us. So hopefully we're able to get these out to more and more schools and help, you know, protect the students in there and, you know, get them away from doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing.
And when did you start putting them in schools?
It's been a couple years now. I don't have the exact date, but they've been a great partner. They came to one of our conferences that we had put on, and as soon as we saw them, we're like, wow, this is something we should be talking to all of our schools about. And so it's been a number of years, and Motorola has been a good partner since they acquired this company. I think it was in 2023 or 2024.
Okay, and what's the feedback that you've been getting since you have had it there? You had enough time, I would assume, to get some real feedback as to how it's worked and maybe ways that you can even enhance it.
People want more of them. It's you know, a lot of schools start with, you know, between 2 and 5 locations, and they're as soon as they get them in there, they want to put them in more locations, put them in classrooms, put them in locker rooms, and all that. And you know, it goes down to even, you know, we've got some elementary schools that are starting to put them in all the way up through universities, and it's even funny, we're starting to see this in the commercial space too, on manufacturing floors and office spaces, that people want something like this in there to make sure that, you know, as people are coming back to office more, that everyone's safe and that there's, you know, clean air to breathe.
Is it surprising to you that elementary schools are reaching out?
Yeah, it's a little scary to me. I don't necessarily love that, but if it's a way to help secure the kids, it's a good thing. We're doing a project right now in Texas where the first school that they want to do it at was the elementary school. And it's funny, as soon as if there's ever something that happens, they want to make sure that the alerts are correct. When they first get in, they call us up like, "Is this real? Have we got this many alerts going on in this room?" And we're like, "Unfortunately, yeah, it is real." So it's helped curb some of that, the things you don't want kids doing.
And what does it mean to you all as a company to be on the cutting edge of technology from this standpoint?
There's so many great companies out there that do what we do, and what we try to find is deliver with our great clients, but also how do we be cutting edge and find technologies that other people aren't using. And so this is one of the technologies that we found that we think has been ahead of the game. And it took a while for some competitors to be in the market, but still, there's nothing that does the vast amount of things that this product is able to do. And so we've been really proud to have this partnership, and they've been very good to us, and hopefully we've been good to them and our clients.
What side of Chicago are you all headquartered?
So we're headquartered in Buffalo Grove with offices in Rosemont and Downers Grove. And then we've got a couple offices in, unfortunately, Green Bay, our brethren up there. We have a lot of good football talk with them. We have an office in Duluth, Minnesota, and then Boston as well. And then we've got people scattered kind of throughout the Southeast.
Very interesting indeed. Again, the why behind it, why it's needed, but also the fact that you all are able to meet the need at the time that it's needed.
Yeah, it is, and it's been good, and hopefully, this thing curbs the amount of e-cigarettes that kids are using and buying.
Yeah, that, and if you're able to have all the rest of the things that you touted there, especially when it comes to gunshot detection or anything of that nature, what if you're planning on taking it up a notch? What would be something that is aspirational for you all to be able to add to it?
I mean, one of the things that we've done, we want to continue to do is how do we daisy chain cameras to this? So as soon as you get a notification, there's areas you cannot put cameras, right? You cannot put a camera in a bathroom. And so daisy chaining those to help with the students, so you're able to identify who is using the product, what issues are going on. If someone yells out one of those keywords of help, you can see who comes out of the bathroom to be able to help support them. And you also do that in classrooms. So it's a great way of combining what we do on the physical security side with these detectors, but also with the cameras that we're able to help provide.
Well, Todd, great speaking to you, and thank you for sharing more information about what your company does, based right here in the city of Chicago, but helping schools nationwide in such a important way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having us on.
Absolutely. Give us 2 minutes, everyone, and we'll be right back with the Summerfest lineup. Welcome back. 3:50 right now, final conversation of the day, and it has us thinking of summer days that, over the next few days might feel pretty far away. But let's go ahead and bring in Jared Woods. He's a senior director of marketing for Summerfest because the lineup was just revealed today. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, I love your background. So before I let you go, I got to hear about those guitars there. But while in the interest of time, let's get to the important stuff here. Who's in the lineup?
Yeah, today we announced over 180 artists. You can find them all on summerfest.com, but we got some really exciting ones. We've got Garth Brooks, obviously legendary country artist, kicking off the festival on June 16th and 17th. But then some other incredible headliners that we have. Obviously Ed Sheeran, nationally recognized artist. We've got Post Malone coming, Muse, who's an incredible rock band, who, as I know, this is their only current date in the United States. But then on the side stages as well, we've got legends like Charlie Wilson, Styx, The Roots. That's a band I could not be more excited to see.
Yeah.
I have never had a chance to see Questlove, but super excited for him, and so many other bands as well.
Oh my goodness. It sounds like there's something for everyone. And tell us when and where we need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So the dates of the festival are June 18th through 20th, June 25th through 27th, and July 2nd through 4th. So we are a 9-day, 3-weekend festival, perfect for all of our Chicago fans who come up, can drive up on the weekend. It's obviously a short drive, and it's right on the shores of Lake Michigan. So from a scenery standpoint, you really can't beat it.
Something in my spirit feels a little odd today with the Bears conversation about Indiana, about telling people the short drive to just across the state line for anything today.
Yeah, we have so many fans who actually do come up from Chicago every single year, and we welcome them with open arms. Open arms. I think for us, it's one of those things where summer is obviously such a special time for us Midwesterners.
Yeah.
So we really look forward to welcoming fans not only from Chicago but from all over the country for the incredible lineup that we have.
Tell me about the work that goes into putting this lineup together. And to keep it fresh year after year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of those things that we see that artists are planning their tours and their schedules even further in advance than ever before. So this lineup really started to come together early on in 2025, and now we're finally getting it all the way out the door. But to your point, I think we're always looking for those artists who are, whether they're up and coming or just starting to reach their peak. Like, we have Don Toliver headlining, who's an incredible R&B hip hop artist. He just released a brand new album that was #1 on Billboard. Megan Moroney, she's releasing her brand new album actually tomorrow, who is another one of those female country artists who just kind of rose really, really fast in her career. So we're super excited to have them as well.
I think this is just so awesome. And again, it's just one thing that gets us thinking about warmer weather that we can one day achieve. But tell us about tickets and how we can prepare now to be in those seats.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think for us, we've got one of the best deals around. We really pride ourselves at being an affordable and accessible music festival for everyone. So not only do we have very low-cost general admission tickets, but we have different offers. Like right now, we have a T-Mobile 9-day Power Pass, which gets you into the festival all 9 days for only $58. It really is an incredible deal. Otherwise, you can go and find tickets, like I said, single day, 3-day, or tickets for our amphitheater shows all online at summerfest.com.
Sounds amazing. And now with just 1 minute left to talk to you, I need to know about those guitars. Who signed them? Where'd they come from?
Yeah, I think we are very lucky, obviously being around for 58 years. We have a deep history. So, behind me, I think we have an Eric Church guitar right here. I'm pretty sure this one is Guns N' Roses one. So it's one of those things where, we have guitars. If you ever come up here, come visit us. We have guitars around our entire office. It really speaks to our legacy as a festival and, the success that we have had. And we're excited for this year as we celebrate our 58th festival.
Oh, my goodness, Jared, one thing is for sure, you're a great senior director of marketing, first and foremost. But Summerfest sounds like it's going to be fantastic as usual, and can't wait, again, just for the warmer weather to get everybody there. So thank you so much for taking some time to chat with me today about the big news with the lineup being revealed.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, you take care. All right, everybody, we're going to give you a 2-minute break, and then we'll be back to close things out for the day. All right, welcome back, everyone. We always appreciate you spending your afternoons with us here for Chicago Live from 1 to 4 p.m., whether you're here the whole time or whether you join us sometime in between those hours. We appreciate it, and we've covered quite a bit of ground today, as usual. I can tell you that coming up next at 4, man, they're going to continue on that conversation about our big story of the day. What's going on with the Bears? Where will they be? Will they be the Indiana Bears at some point in time soon? We shall see, but they're going to cover it from all angles. You can be sure of that, as well as the weather. Emily was here with us speaking about the possibility of severe weather for some, so don't miss an update from her again. Coming up next at 4, and I'll see you back here from 1 to 4 tomorrow.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
Let's get into what matters. Storms could get strong to severe.